But wait, I was just going to do a good show. Thank you, board members for that courtesy. I was trying to get right to it. So back on to the PowerPoint. So year in review, what happened in 2022 at CRPD? We started out with, there we go. Oop. So we started out at the Teen Center in January with kind of the groundbreaking, and the mayor decided, to take it really serious and started tearing apart a wall. Then our director Cussworth said, that's not enough. I need to drive a backhoe and really tear up the ground. So we had fun. Some of you were here at that. That was a lot of fun, that kind of groundbreaking for the Teen and Senior Center. So that project is pretty much gutting a lot of the inside of the Teen Center other than the gym, and doing new floors and some wall coverings, paint. The outside's getting an entire new backyard. It's going to be fantastic. Then we had a ribbon cutting, and I think that's at Triunfo. We did our part-time service awards right here in this room, and we celebrate our wonderful staff. Mark's not here tonight. A lot of times Mark could be here. We did the ribbon cutting because we finished the new picnic shade structure at Canoe Creek South, right behind the community building. If you haven't been out there, we actually did an event there for our 60th. It's actually a cool reservable party location, a good spot. It's not going there. Oops. So there's another shot of it in use. So it's really popular too on those hot soccer days. Then we did Lang Ranch Neighborhood Park, another playground. Then when opportunities arise, you got to seize them. And this was not on our radar for 2022 at all. But Andrew's been paying close attention to available properties that might make sense as the community continues to grow and we have more and more folks. We still need to add parkland. So this piece of property kind of right next to the Thousand Oaks Surgical Hospital, and between there and the Rolling Oaks neighborhood. It's on the north side of the 101 between Rancho and Moore Park. There are no parks on that side of the freeway, the south side. Yeah, did I say north? South side of the freeway. So it's a really neat 5.5 acres, 2 residential lots. We got it for under $1 million. So it was a really good deal. Then we took a fun board field trip. We looked at how the construction was going at Page Lane Park. I'm going to show you the park a little later in the slideshow. This is it before you'll see the later pictures. We went out to, was that Lynn Oaks?
Yes.
Yep, that was Lynn Oaks Park, and talked about some improvements that might go there. That's a school district property that they would maybe let us do a little expansion on of a park. And then we were at the Las Flores Community Garden to see what they were all about. I just threw this slide in because we are in the drought and people are wondering what the heck should they be doing with their yards if they have grass and need to do something else. So this California True Colors Garden and Learning Center, we kind of did during the last drought, maybe 10 years ago now, but it's still there. And this is what it looks like. This is all really drought tolerant stuff. And so when you're in it in the spring, it's just beautiful. Then we went over to TO Park. If you haven't been there, that's an amazing playground redo. That was a fun day. So then we changed up how we're recognizing the senior volunteers, the thousands of volunteers that go to Julie Spivak and her program, the Caneo Senior Volunteer Program. And we used to do this very point system based. Not everyone could go. So you had to do a whole bunch of stuff to get over the hurdle. At North Ranch Country Club, a really nice way to recognize it. This time we just said, why don't we use our picnic area and just to have everyone come. And so it was a ton of fun. A lot of the senior volunteers made it. So it was a great day. And I think that's going to be the new tradition for recognizing those folks. I threw this in so I could talk about a few things. Our own Doug Nichols is the incoming president for the California Association of Rec and Park Districts. This was at a conference for the California Association of Rec and Park Districts, and he happens to be holding I think a safety award at that moment. But we do some stuff statewide park agencies. And then we had a great day in open space with our partners, the COSCA, Open Space Conservation Agency in the city. It looks like County Supervisor Parks is there. But we, CRPD worked, we did the work for COSCA and built this really great area out at what we call Olympia Farms, Area 1. So it's just beautiful out there. So we actually have a little video of that work. You're going to do the video. So I want to show you some of the work we did out there. If you haven't been out there, you guys have to get out there. Kind of like ominous music. I don't know. This is like, I don't know. It was a nice time. So then in the spring we do our gratitude circle. So this year we recognized some people that had gone above and beyond and did amazing stuff with and for the parks and open spaces and rec programs in the community. So Mary Power got recognized this year, Wyatt McCrae, and Cecilia Laufenberg for their many years of service to the Canal Rec and Park District. So that was a fun day. This is a slide to sort of capture. This one slide captures an enormous amount of work from staff and the board and the public. So this is one of our community conversation meetings, our community outreach meetings, as we were considering doing a revenue measure. Just really quick, because I have an audience, I wouldn't probably rehash this for the board. They all lived it and know it, but we polled close enough to make a consideration to do a revenue measure. Would have cost a homeowner about $40. And we polled at about 65%. You need 66 to pass, but the margin of error is plus or minus 3%. So the consultant's like, go for it. This is something you could do, but it was still a year away. So we're looking at November 22. And so then we surveyed did all these community outreach meetings. And Rochelle probably did, 20 meetings herself. Tom did a bunch of meetings. I was doing quite a few. We would go to homeowners associations, service clubs. We rented a space in the Oaks Mall. We were everywhere talking to anyone who will listen. And although I think we did a great job letting everyone know about the Park District, when we surveyed the public again, it was this past spring. And that was when the war in Ukraine just started, inflation went crazy, gas prices went to $7, and the stock market dropped, I think, 3,000 points the day we did this, the week we did the surveys. So the results came back at 61%, and they just said, don't go for it, don't try it. So this November, you did not see a little bit of a kicker for revenue for the Park District. That's something this board will have to wrestle with based on, capital funding projections in the future. This was, I think, a safe passage program, kind of a homework club graduation event at Conejo Community. And then in the spring, we recognized a longtime employee, my predecessor as general manager, for helping kind of really help work with the city to really create the park system that we know today, and open space. He was passionate about that. So we named a little area we called it Tex Ward Point, and that was a fun event that we did up there. There we go, a lot of slides on that. We have a essay contest with the 5th graders, and we get all these great essays, and COSF and COSTAC come in and recognize the kids for all their hard work. And then, of course, everyone knows a big challenge. You're living it as homeowners. We certainly live it as a park agency, that we really needed to save water. Some conversations, some discussions, and lobbying, and the powers that get to make the decision have so far recognized that parks and schools have essential turf that is functional, that kids are running around on, people playing sports on, that people really need it to stay alive. So there's been kind of a pass a little bit, although we are doing more conservation than we have been. We haven't yet been subject to the same limitations as all the residents have, but we definitely are doing our part. We've already removed over 1/3 of our grass from the last drought. So there isn't much more for us to do until it really starts to hurt. So if you have a lawn still at your house, consider some of those great other kinds of plantings to save a little water, because I think hotter, drier is kind of the thing we're banking on in the future. Summer brings on our summer concerts. We have the national anthem now happening, or a similar patriotic song at our federal holidays. And, the board, it always brings out other, our partner agencies and folks. Those are good times at Conejo Community. We acquired a rec van this year. So the folks in rec are bringing some of the stuff that happens at community centers into the neighborhood parks. And it's been a lot of fun doing those programming. Remember, we're kind of post-COVID. Some stuff had been done differently or didn't happen at all. So we went back to a traditional touch-a-truck, which is a huge favorite event. And then summer always means, actually spring means we're training all of our new lifeguard staff. And this year, like everybody else, hiring people has been crazy hard. But because of our aquatics program, CRPD's reputation, we actually did pretty well getting our staff, because people look at us as a go-to place to work. So we've been very fortunate. I know there were public pools that couldn't open because they couldn't staff them. And I took this photo just coming into work here in this building. So in this room, like, this is what's happening during the day when the board's not here and you're not here. Like, this is going on in the summer. So like, how cool is, I had like sticks and rocks and some, I don't know, a swing set or something as summer camp. Now this is the kind of stuff that this is what summer camp looks like here. And that's my favorite, the Wildwood Camp. And then, we have an election. And so we had some people interested in running, and they were hugely good sports. And so we actually did, just like summer camp, we did a sort of a team building project with the candidates for the board. And I appreciate all of you that participated in that. That was really cool. So thanks for doing all that, you guys. I think I got all 6 of you that showed up in the shot. And then sometime after Halloween, we get a call from Bruce Stanton, who works with the Jance Mall and us, to say how much they have left over from their event, and they donate it to CRPD. So this has been going on now for quite a while, incredibly generous. So that's what they were able to give us after last Halloween. So we go and always let the Jance Marketplace and Bruce know how much we appreciate their hard work. Charity karaoke came back. The reigning champions couldn't participate, so they, the tough contenders there were the Stagecoach Inn folks. I ran into them at a bar in Calabasas, so that's where our chair is spending her weekend evenings. Had our pickleball tournament, that's coming back, and super popular. We started our outreach discussions about where to put those pickleball courts, and that's been kind of a fun process. We still don't know exactly where, but we've narrowed it down to 5 possible locations. The Cameron Center, so the Rangers have been literally working on a cargo container, shipping containers that were not even new shipping containers, 30-year-old shipping containers at one of the service yards. So we actually were able to put them in a building a very, very old building, a building that's, but it's standing. And so now they actually have a headquarters to work in. So we hired 3 new rangers, and we actually can hire a 4th to go from 7 to 10 rangers right now. So we have a great core of Casca Rangers, and they have a new place to kind of work out of. The Cameron Center is on the Los Robles golf course, if anyone's not familiar with it. And then we did our the first brand new park in a while, Page Lane Park, 14 acres, not a stitch of grass. It was supposed to have 3 acres of grass, but because of the drought and the watering restrictions, we chose not to do the grass. But we had a great day celebrating the opening. We had a huge turnout, a lot of fun. And Tom had a lot of fun there leading the way. And we have a little video of that. So Andrew, what did that end up, or Tom, what did that end up costing? 5? Just under 4? 3.8 something. So so that's the kind of stuff we can do if we have the revenue to do it. So that was a great project. That property had been owned by the Park District since the 70s. You know, future park coming soon. So we finally got to it. And then we're getting later in the year, getting closer. We're into November. If anyone recognizes the veterans in that photo, we have a great breakfast for vets on Veterans Day. And some stuff we've been working toward is expanding and rehabbing the skate park at Borchard. So a couple cool images of what that might look like, doubles the size of it. We're into construction. We're past design into construction drawings. So yeah, construction drawing time now, and then we'll be working to try to figure out how to get the money for something like that. So that's a cool project we're working towards. And now we're just kind of celebrating November as being the month of our 60th anniversary. So we kicked off our 60th anniversary at a red carpet premiere for our employees, because CRPD wouldn't be what it is without our employees doing the hard work they do. So we had this we rented out a theater and we showed a 10-minute video about CRPD, and we got to follow it up with a free regular movie. But it was a really cool, like, fun event with staff. And this is a 1-minute version, you know, had to be really tightened down, of the 10-minute video that's out there now, celebrating our 60 years.
I really think our organization is about how we make people feel. A parent will bring a child to a program that they attended when they could get, they would do that. And you say, well, what does it count here? Because of what it's about. They want to recreate that feeling that they had when they were there for their child.
Really, it starts with the people in this community. The people are what created the Canelo Reckoning Park District.
the staff, the culture of the park district in particular is one of community service, and folks that come to work for us are largely like, how can I help other people? About 38% of the city of Thousand Oaks is dedicated open space, and that says a lot. Yeah, I think that our founding fathers back in the 1960s were really proud of what we are today and what we're going to be.
Recreation is supposed to be for everyone. We're just making sure that it is.
So that's actually playing in the movie theaters right now from Thanksgiving to New Year's in the AMC right here, at the Oaks. That's an AMC, right? With the soundtrack matching the video in the theater. That was a PowerPoint glitch. But if you haven't seen the 10-minute video, please check it out. It's online on our website and so we had a really cool, hopefully you saw the acorn on the left side there. The image is the acorn pullout that we did, a 20-page pullout on the 60th. We had a really, we got a great response. We said, hey, for CRPD's birthday, we'd love for you to give us what you think of CRPD in 60 words or less. And we're going to be putting those in the rec program guide over the next year, what people responded. We got a lot of responses and really cool stuff. It was fun. So then we did have a little bit of a birthday party at Caneo Creek South and showed that 10-minute video. And now we're here tonight. We just had this public workshop right before this meeting. And I like to leave the end of the year on a sunset photo. Matt Kuba taught me that. That's actually the Pacific Ocean from Buzzard's Roost Ranch and kind of like behind Westlake, looking at the ocean there on just a week ago. There you go. Oh, that was a bonus slide. So that's the year in review. So thank you.
You want to have one? Okay.
It's up to you.
I'd like to have comments. We can have comments.
Yes.
We'll have some comments from the director on that directors from that presentation. Director Lang.
Yes. Thank you, Chair Cusworth. One of the things that jumped out at me that many of you may not know was the presentation of that $50,000 check that came from the Reign of Terror event down at the Jantz Mall. And a little history, the gentleman that's running it, Bruce Stanton, started it in his garage, in his house, and it grew and grew. It became a major traffic congestion. So the city says you can't have it here anymore. So the interim location is right where you're sitting and outside. And then he subsequently got space down at the Jantz Marketplace where it is today. And it's been over, I don't know how many years that he's been able to contribute money to CRT programs at the Teen Center and Young Artists Ensemble and the come on, George.
Mayo Theater for Everyone.
Outreach.
Mayo Theater for Everyone.
Caneo Theater for Everyone.
And what's the other? Anyway, the CRPD programs. Tim Higgles.
Oh, Safe Passage.
Safe Passage. So I say, no, doesn't go to Safe Passage. Erase that. Anyway, I just thought it was something to mention because it shows how community members can get involved and participate and contribute to their community and their organization. And we are very fortunate, as those of you who know about CRPD, the fact that we have many great relationships and partners within our community. And one that was featured on the film was Casca between the city and the park district. Thank you, Chair Cutsworth.
Thank you, Director Lang. Do we have any other comments on the 60th anniversary and year in review? No? Okay. So moving on, do we have any items from the public that are not related to the public hearing for the district?
These are all 8A.
So no one is here to comment on anything other than that. Okay, so moving on to our consent calendar. A and B, do I have,
Item five.
oh, I'm sorry, approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion for the approval of the agenda?
Also move.
Thank
I'll
you. A
second.
Thank you, Director Lang. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that passes. And now we will move on to number 6, our consent calendar, the approval of the minutes and the approval of the warrants. Do I have a motion to approve consent calendar A and B?
Also move
Thank you.
consent calendar A, items A and B.
Thank you, Director Lang. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Do we have any discussion on this? No, then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? And now we'll move on to new item 7, the selection of a chair and vice chair. Is there any comment on this? Do you want to comment, General Manager Friedel?
No, this is the appropriate time to take nominations for.
Okay. Do we have a nomination, Director Lang?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Director Chuck Huffer as our incoming chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other nominations?
Yes, second.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that nomination.
All righty, all in favor of Director Huffer being the new chair?
Aye.
You asked if there were any other nominations.
I did ask if
Okay.
there were other nominations.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Okay,
I want
congratulations.
I want the real thing.
You
Yeah.
want, oh, you're not gonna take the water bottle that
That thing,
I was gonna keep this. No,
no,
okay.
no. Okay, so the next item, next portion of item 7. I would like to open the floor for nominations for vice chair for 2023. Yes,
Yeah.
Director Nichols.
I'd like to nominate Director George Lang.
Thank you. Have nomination for Director Lang. Is there a second for that nomination?
I'll make a second.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other nominations for vice chair for 2023? If not, I will close the nominations. All those in favor of Director Lang as vice chair for 2023, please indicate.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you. Okay. Moving right along.
So Chair Huffer.
Yes, sir.
By tradition, when we do the changing of the guard, we usually have the opportunity to say thanks to our chair, and we have done that yet again. So we do have the staff and the board think about the service our chair has done throughout the year prior. Nellie is still a working mom, but she's doing the work of a board member. And then also, when you're the chair, you are going to a lot of different functions and representing the district in official capacity all over the place. And you could tell from that year, we were doing all sorts of cool stuff. So you ran the meetings very well and efficiently and kindly, and you showed up at those events. And so the board and staff have gotten a gift for you. This being your inaugural year as chair, and you like the concerts in the park, we have for you.
The chair.
Thank you, Nellie Cussworth, the chair 2022.
Well, thank you very much. And that chair looks like it's big enough that I can have a couple of grandkids sitting in that with me too.
And a beer in each.
Yeah, maybe.
Or a glass of wine or.
Or whatever I want in there. Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed being the chair. I've enjoyed working with all of you. I've enjoyed learning more about CRPD throughout this year. And it's made me appreciate being a member of this organization by kind of seeing even more the inner workings of what's going on. And the more that I learn about CRPD, the more I appreciate it. We're a fabulous organization. And I'm glad to be able to continue on in the capacity of a director for this next 4 years. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And board comments, Director Nichols, I saw your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Chair and now Director Cussworth, I just wanted to commend you on a fantastic year. I remember starting our 4 years together 4 years ago, and you kind of coming along and trying to get a little sense of how this organization was run. And then when he started as chair, a little trepidation maybe on how to take care of business. But I must say, over the course of 12 months, your maturity as a chair, and then also bringing in your personality into the role of chair, has been a real blessing, I think, for the Park District. You just brought a certain character with you, which not to be confused with your docent activities of playing alternate characters, but actually some of the characters that you bring, that you brought into that role, definitely elevated what the chair is expected to be. So I just want to thank you for that and just commend you on a job well done.
Thank you very much.
Director Ling.
Yes, thank you. And some of the points that you were making, Doug, as far as, this is her first shot at being chair. And there was trepidation. She was concerned. I had received a number of questions and so forth. And I just want to say, you have accomplished a lot in addition to, the many activities that you ran and chaired over, but also the fact that you took the time to understand each of the directors and how we work together as a team. So I want to thank you for that. And like it was stated by the general manager, you're still a working mom, you're still teaching in the classroom, and we look forward to when you have the opportunity to retire and do this full time.
Thank you. Yes, that chair is going to also be used, that chair there at the beach, at campsite. In addition to the concert, will be a very well-used chair once I retire into.
Director Buss, you've been a director now for 15, 20 minutes. I don't know if you've had a chance to meet Nellie at all, but any comments from Director Buss?
Yes, I will say that when I was coming to the meetings and watching them on Zoom, I did really appreciate watching you, and you have made me feel extremely welcome through this whole process. And I really appreciate that. You're a great role model.
Well, we appreciate having you join us. I'm sure you'll do great things on the board. Thank you.
Now, I just want to add my thanks and congratulations for not just the great 12 months that you've been chair of our board and going through the list of activities that Jim did. You've probably been involved in more ribbon cuttings and activities in this past 12 months, more than we have in just years and years. And you managed to get to virtually every one of those, unless it was weekday when you were teaching the little one, was it first graders that you're teaching? So you made it and represented the district very well at all of these various events. As Jim said, the fact that you are able to fulfill all of these duties while you're teaching has been pretty incredible. But not just the last 12 months, but the 4 years that you've been on the board. You're the one who has really pushed to get the 3 museums that we have in our community, get them working together and sort of helping to coordinate the Chumash and the Stagecoach Inn, and I'm temporarily drawing a blank. McCray Ranch, because they have different audiences, but some of the same audiences, and you've been pushing really hard for that from the time you started. And if I recall correctly, you were also the one who early on came up with the idea of, I guess for lack of a better term, board buddies, getting the CRPD board members paired up each year with a representative from the city council and a representative from the school board, and give those 3 elected bodies a chance to get to know each other a little bit better and to exchange some ideas. So for everything that you've done and will continue to do for the next 4 years, I want to thank you very much.
Well, thank all of you. I kept interluding, but thank you. I appreciate it. And I've learned a lot from you, and I love being with you. It was actually General Manager Friedel who initiated the board buddies, but I was enthusiastic. So, but I should give him the credit for that. So thank you very much. And I look forward to being here with all of you for the next 4 years.
Good. Okay. Now I can move on to 8A, correct, Mr. Friedel?
That's correct.
Thank you very much.
And
So-
thank you for your patience.
Yes, I'm going to open the public hearing, and yes, I know that you all have been very patiently waiting. I do appreciate it. We're opening the public hearing to receive a presentation from our demographic consultant regarding the proposed draft maps. Hopefully you've all had a chance to look at those maps that we've had online for the past week or so and get feedback from at least some of you on the maps that have been proposed thus far. So with that, Jim, did you have any remarks you wanted to make first, or?
No, we just have Dr. Justin Levitt from National Demographic Corporation here, the principal, and he's been with us before, so take it away, Dr. Levitt.
Thank you.
That mic turned on?
Excuse me, is his microphone on?
Sorry, now it is. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you, members of the board, members of the community who are here tonight. My name is Dr. Justin Levitt with National Demographics, and it's a pleasure to present our first round of draft maps here tonight. I just want to kind of start with where we are in the process. This is our first round of looking at the draft maps. This is not the end of the process, however. Based on the feedback tonight, we can come back in January with a new set of draft maps or changes or revisions to the draft maps for another round of discussion on January 5th. And that'll be followed by board action on the 19th. So we still have opportunities for additional feedback, participation, comments. I know for many members of the community, this will be the first chance we have to really look and discuss the maps, and we don't expect that any of these are the final map. So early on, we kind of talked about these criteria that we would use in drawing the maps. These are the criteria, and we did use them in drawing the maps, and now we can also use them as criteria to evaluate the maps. And so each of the 6 maps we have to present to you tonight, for example, will be equal population. Each will have the same number approximately of total residents according to the 2020 census. Each complies with the Federal Voting Rights Act. Race was not the predominant criteria we used in drafting any of the maps, but we did consider protected class communities as we drew them. And we'll talk about that as we go through each of the individual maps. And where the maps really differ is in the second column of traditional districting principles. And these are things that the courts have recognized over the years are valid to consider. And it'll be up to the community and the board to just determine the balance of which criteria matter the most and how the different maps work in terms of implementing those issues. Communities of interest really is at the core of this whole process. And I remember when I was here last time, I really thought about communities of interest in the sense of the issues that are relevant to the board and to the community as a rec and parks district. And so, you know, we talk about communities of interest with every level of districting, but what those issues are that create and bring communities together may look different depending on what kind of jurisdiction we're talking about. A school district may be much more focused, for example, on attendance areas, while a city is more focused on street cleaning and trash collection and policing. And so these kinds of different issues create different communities at different levels of government. And so really when we think about communities of interest, we want to think not just about those communities that come up at every stage of redistricting, like planned communities or neighborhoods that have a shared sense of identity, or you know, particularly maybe park and business corridors, but specifically how those relate to the Rec and Parks District, different facility needs in different parts of the city, different needs for services in different parts of the city. And that's where let's spend a lot of time thinking about this, because it's where a lot of the differences and a lot of the trade-offs between the map are most highlighted. Then we have compactness and contiguity. Both of these criteria are about the shape of the district, so the divisions. So compactness refers to whether or not your area has odd hooks or fingers. Blocks that areas that don't really make sense because they're not really connected to the rest of the division. Sometimes that'll be necessary. Maybe it's driven by communities of interest. Maybe it's driven by weird census blocks or other census geography. But the principle is that we should try to avoid that if at all possible. One of the ways we do that is contiguity, making sure that the district has one clean outside boundary and that there isn't two different pieces of the district that are not really connected to each other, two different pieces of a division that are not connected to each other. To that extent, we can follow visible boundaries. These could be natural boundaries like canyons or rivers, or man-made boundaries like freeways or major roads. These make it easy for voters to understand where they are, which trustee area or which division they live in. And so to the extent that we can, it makes it easier for voters to understand which division they will eventually be in. Respecting voters' choices is the principle that the voters of this district have elected a board, and that it should be up to the members of the community rather than the stroke of a pen on a map to determine whether board members have a chance at re-election. And plan future growth. If there is going to be a large, big development that affects one particular area, we can take that into consideration either by dividing the area or underpopulating it to account for that potential future growth. All of these principles have been recognized by the courts as being valid, and it's up to our discussion to balance them. Now, say about the draft maps, in addition to the paper copies of the maps we have here tonight, we also have an interactive web viewer on the district's website, drawconejo.org. That web viewer has search features that allow you to zoom in and out, allow you to search for addresses. We actually have the parks layer directly from the district on there as well, so that you can look and see how the maps compare to each other. As we update the maps before the next hearings, we will continue to update the interactive web viewer on drawconejo.org. I'm going to run through each of the maps briefly and before we kind of get into more discussion, and I'm happy to answer additional questions about the maps as well. I'll just say to start out, all of these maps were drawn by us, the demographers, with the list of criteria in mind. Map 101 is the map that the school district adopted. There's very little population difference between the school district and the Rec and Parks district, and that allowed us to draw in the school district lines exactly as they are. On this map, I just want to note that we do have a suggested sequence on there for a reason. We're required to post maps with a timeline of how the districts will roll out, and they roll out over a period of 4 years. So no current board members' terms are cut short. You will serve the completed term. But in 2024, the board will need to designate 2 seats that will hold election for the first time, 2 divisions that will hold election for the first time in 2024. The remaining 3 divisions will hold election in 2026. And as those seats come up, the district will transition into a division-based election system. In this map, we have an area 3 that is 19% Latino by citizen voting age or eligible voter population. That's the population over 18 with US citizenship that the courts often call the eligible voter population. This does create 2 sets of pairings in Division 2 and Division 3. That would also create 2 vacant seats that would require the board to designate them in different election years. The board would decide one of those seats to hold election in 2024 and the other to hold a seat in 2026 or hold its first election in 2026. So just again to start, this is the school district map. Map 102 is a more freeway focused map. In particular, area 3, which follows the freeway corridor along Highway 101, is 22% Latino by citizen voting age population. Now, there is some margin of error, and there's some, obviously with any data set, there's going to be differences year over year. And one of the things that we'll just note about all of these numbers, is they're not going to be perfect. Populations change. And in fact, if you look at that just area 3 on the school district map, its Latino population is different today than it was when the school district adopted the map in 2019. So year over year differences are going to mean that the difference between a 19% and a 22% may actually be less than that, or maybe more than that. We can't actually tell. But we do know that according to just the headline number, map 102 is 22% Latino. And what this map does is it creates other areas that are kind of focused again on the freeways. So we use the 22 or the 23 as a major division line between areas 1 and 2. We use the 101 again, kind of keeping, area 5 south of 101, except on the very east end of the district where it crosses for population balance. Maps 103 and 104, we kind of think of as a pair. If the board is interested in this kind of concept, these two maps are very similar to each other. One of the things, so this map does several things. The first of all, what it does is it ensures that each board member would have, or each director would have a separate division to run in the future. This one unites the northern and eastern kind of areas of the district along the outer edge. A lot of these are some very large census blocks in that area as well that it kind of unites together. It creates 3 more horizontal districts in divisions 1, 2, and 3, uniting that with the core of the freeway corridor area in division 3 with the south, division 2 in the central part, and division 1 in the north. Division 3 is again our most heavily Latino area, and it would be 16% Latino in this map. Map 104 keeps the same areas 4 and 5, but what it does is it creates in areas 2 and 3, that 2 now basically goes more vertically from the central part of the city down to the southern, down to the south to the Lake Sherwood and the southern reaches of the city, and area 3 goes eastward. Area 3 would be 15% Latino in this map. Maps 105 and 106 came from a district request to look into seeing if we could draw areas that would keep the Conejo Creek Park area divided between 3 area divisions. So in each of both 105 and 106, again, these are 2 very similar maps. And if the board likes this concept, we would suggest maybe selecting one and getting rid of the other. Both of these maps keep the equestrian park in area 1, Conejo Creek Park North in area 2, and Conejo Creek Park South in area 3. Both of them keep the freeway corridor area together in division 3. Map 105 creates a 22% Latino CVAP seat, the highest of all the maps. And 106 is 21% Latino by citizen voting age population. Where we see the difference is that in map 105, 2 comes around the north part of the district, whereas in map 106, area 2 crosses the freeway in more of the central part. You do have to cross the freeway at some point because there's too much population east or west of the freeway to keep it all in one division. And depending on how you do that, you have different size population areas you have to trade off. Both keep area 5 in the south portion of it entirely south of the 101 freeway. I'll just stress that these are 6 maps that are kind of the first pass, the first take at these maps. And as part of our public hearing tonight, we would like to hear what you like. And specifically, it doesn't have to be the whole map, but if there are things that work or things that don't work in a particular map, we're happy to take that feedback because that'll help us come back with better maps next time. All toward going down to our final maps at the end of the process in January. We would suggest that if the board wants to eliminate any maps tonight, they certainly can. Or maybe choose 2 to 3 focus maps to help narrow the conversation down moving forward. And we can talk about that if you have any questions about that as well. So thank you very much. I look forward to our discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Levin. I know we have a number of speaker cards and we'll get to these momentarily. I would, if any of the board members have any brief questions or need clarification from Dr. Levitt while he's at the podium, I would like to go ahead and entertain those questions. Director Nichols?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did have one question. Just going back to the, thank you for the presentation. Going back to the principles that you indicated, that you're trying to address, do all of the maps presented comply with all the principles?
We believe that they do.
Thank you. Were there any other board questions of Dr. Levitt? If not, so we have a number of speaker cards. As I call your name, if you could, excuse me, go up to the podium and hopefully the microphone is still live. I'm going to call the first person, actually the first two names. The first person will go to the podium and the second person will be basically on deck. So first speaker card I have is for Carol Shelton. And on deck will be Rosanna, hopefully I don't butcher this, Guerra. Okay, thank you. Carol?
Hi, my name is Carol Shelton. I've lived in Thousand Oaks since the 80s, a very, very long time. I don't have anything prepared tonight, but I urge you to not play a heavy emphasis on keeping your seats in this election process, in this map process. Because-
Carol, could I interrupt? Would it be possible? I know some of us are concerned about disease, but would it be possible to pull your mask down just while you're speaking?
Absolutely not. There's a
Okay,
lot of people.
that's
that
fine.
can't,
It just,
I'm-
get closer to the mic.
Okay, I'm short, so will this help?
Well, yeah, I'm having a little trouble hearing, so.
Is that better? Okay, so I'll use my big girl voice too. My name is Carol Shelton. I've lived here since the 80s. I will be watching the map process and I want to ask that you not place heavy emphasis on keeping your seats. While you are elected officials, that may not be the case in the future. And tonight I heard something that caused me great alarm, and is something about a defensible map. The one thing I know about the city of Thousand Oaks is that we band together and we stay together. And the idea that one of the maps is so problematic that they have had an attorney weigh in that is a defensible map, and that makes me scared. I am concerned about our Latino population having a voice and choice in who gets elected to CRPD, and I would like you to look at maps that would allow that to happen for our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Carol. Rosanna,
Yara.
Gara, you're up, and on deck would be Chase Rashid.
Good evening. My name is Rosanna Guerra, and I've been a resident of Thousand Oaks since 1993. This is the second time I come before you on this particular issue. I'm voicing my concern because I would like to add that some of the maps presented to you for consideration disproportionately dilute our Latino population. While the CRPD has made attempts to bring voice to our growing population of Latinos, more can be accomplished to create a more welcoming and inclusive environment. A sign of this commitment would be to pay particular attention to maintaining the integrity of our Latinx population and select maps that highlight this strength. As a Latina, I can tell you that being seen by the community that you live in is priceless. What does that mean? Is understanding, celebrating what makes us unique, and that can only be honored by paying attention to representation that will give us voice. Gracias.
Thank you, Rosanna. Chase, and on deck will be Willie Luca. Okay, Chase.
Thank you, board. Don't have a lot of time, so I'm not going to go on and on, but I will say that the first map 101, is probably the fairest. It follows the footprint of the CVUSD map as close as it can. Since CRPD does not include some areas like the Tierra Valley and Hidden Valley. That would be the fairest map to choose. The maps that would absolutely not be fair are 103 and 104. And for a couple of reasons. The one division that includes Newbury Park and it combines it with parts of the area around Wildwood. That is very gerrymandered, very clearly so, not acceptable. It also, they also dramatically dilute the Hispanic population in the downtown area. They sink it in with very wealthy areas that have higher voter turnout than areas downtown. And under Section 2 of the VRA, that would be a violation because it would clearly dilute the Hispanic vote. So those maps should really not be on the table. Now, I do understand that, you know, elected officials would like to maintain their positions, but above all else comes communities of interest. So I would ask that you not consider those two maps. Now, the other maps, 102, 105, and 106, they do have a higher Hispanic percentage than 101, but I do have concerns about how they combine Westlake with parts of Newbury Park and the cuts they make across the 23 in the central part of the city. But overall, I think it's important that political ramifications are not considered in this process. There comes a time when we, in this process, where politicians have to make a decision on what they're going to do and not rely on the map to do it for them.
Thank you, Chase. Willie Lipka is up and let's see, that's different item. Okay, and then I'm probably going to butcher this as well. T. Gutierrez. Hi, Gutierrez. Okay, Willie, go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Willie Lupka. I've been in Thousand Oaks with my family since 2001. And even though it's kind of cool tonight, I took off my jacket so I could show off my t-shirt. Championship softball team, everybody. I hope that gives me special stature with my public comments.
Absolutely.
My family and I have used the parks in the city heavily since we've lived here. We love the parks. We appreciate CRPD, the amazing facilities, parks, resources, and programs. And so as a resident, thank you for what you do. I'm here tonight because of the map making process that's underway. I'll just make one more comment about being a frequent user of the parks. When we're in the parks, we always hear people speaking in Spanish. Our Spanish speaking population uses the parks a lot. One reason is because many of them are lower income and you can use the parks for free rather than doing things that cost money. And I've often noticed when I'm in the parks and hearing Spanish speaking neighbors near me, that many of the signs and resources and information that you provide is in English only. And I would urge you to provide more bilingual information to our community members so that everyone has equal access. I appreciate the process that you're undertaking to get public input on the mapping process. It's clearly very sincere. The outreach, meetings like this, thank you for doing it. I don't know which map I prefer yet, and I'm going to study them and probably come back and let you know. But there are two maps that I think stand out from all of the different options that have two common elements, and those are maps 103 and 104. What they have in common is that those are the only two that ensure that each of you would never have to be competing in an election. All five of you are in a separate district. So those two maps have that in common. And the other common factor is that otherwise there's virtually no redeeming value. They're just really, really much less appropriate than any of the other maps. So as you decide on the maps, I have two requests. Do it publicly and transparently. Don't have backroom conversations. Understand that the maps are for the community and not for you. And I would respectfully ask that you withdraw maps 103 and 104 from consideration. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Willie. Next is Ty Gutierrez.
Hello again. Thank you so much for the time to speak today.
Excuse me, Ty, could I ask you to get
Oh,
closer to the microphone, please?
Yes, sorry. Hello again. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak tonight. Congratulations, Marissa. It was a treat to be here. I didn't know that we were swearing you in tonight, so I'm glad that I got to witness that, as well as our returning board members. Congratulations. So I am here as well, fogging up my own glasses. I am here to speak on the map drawing process that is being publicly held, which I'm really grateful for as well, and excited to see so many involved community members here participating in this opportunity that we all share. And I'm encouraged by that, and I'm eager to hear some of the other positions so that I might learn some of the other just things that I might be missing or not be a part, the communities I might not be a part of, or just my lack of understanding in other parts of our community. For myself, being a part of the Latino community, and similar to my request previously, I'm personally asking, not that that holds a lot of weight, but this is my ask, I'm speaking for myself, that you prioritize keeping the Latino vote together. I am very excited and just feel very privileged to be part of this community, and was so encouraged by all of the things I learned celebrating our 60 years of beautiful rec and parks here in Thousand Oaks, and still disheartened that in 60 years we have not had representation. And so again, I think there's been a lot of, I don't know if I'm touching something. I'm sorry. I'm not, I was sharing with, you know, the expert here. I don't know how qualified I am to look at a map and draw a line. And as much as I love data, even crunching the data makes me just want to ask more questions, not necessarily feel like I can have an informed position. So that's why I come to you as a constituent, as a voter, as a community member, as a mother, as a benefactor of the beautiful programming that you all offer and that our community facilitates here for our community, and ask you to honor the requests that we are hearing, not just from myself, but other community members, and to find a way to hold representation to not a very big population, but the second largest population here in our area, which is the Latino vote. I think there's lots of, I think I mentioned it earlier or the last time, just being outnumbered visibly, and I don't know everyone's backgrounds, and I won't make an assumption about who's on Zoom. But if there are other Latinos listening or that will listen to this later, I would encourage you to look at the data, more specifically at the voter information, and to, as much as I want to be here arguing or not arguing, but laying this request at your feet, and we have to show up and vote. So again, just asking that you prioritize the Latino vote, and that we, along with the other speakers that we remove map 103 and 104 because they can't be justified.
Thank you very much, Ty. Those are all the speaker cards I have for individuals in person. Is there anybody else here who would like to speak on this issue? You've not yet submitted a card? No, do we have anybody online who is requesting to speak on this issue?
No.
No? Okay. Any comments from any board members? No? Okay. Mr. Friedel, do you have any comments or?
No, I think if the slide was correct, the discussion item for the consultant's interest, if you went back to that slide where you had for discussion, it's, you know, is there any map that you just want to get rid of and that kind of stuff, or any map that you said, okay, this is the concept we want, but do this tweak or that tweak if I.
Or
something is
anything,
right.
that's exactly correct, except I'll just add, or anything you want us to bring back to the next meeting.
Any comments from any or suggestions from any of the board members on that? Director Nichols.
No, and I think the reason being is I've been poring over these maps since I received them and looking at them online. And there is so much information here to absorb. It's just like I haven't got to the point where anything floats to the top or anything sinks to the bottom. I'm still just trying to sort out what all this means since we're so new to this process. So I'm not quite there yet. I'm still trying to assess everything myself.
Okay. I did have one question, Dr. Levitt, and that was on, and I believe you addressed this in your initial presentation, but on map 101, where there are two divisions that each have two current board members for the 2024 election, there would be three board members who have just been two re-elected and one elected. So there'd be three board members who are not up for re-election in 2 years. And one of the two board members in the, I guess, northernmost division, one of those two. So you basically would have four current board members. And you stated that no current board members would be removed from their seat prior to the expiration of their term.
Right. So on map 101, Division 2 would be up for election, and then one of the two vacant seats. The choice of which of the two vacant seats would be up in 2024 would be up to the board. And then in 2026, divisions 3, 4, and the other vacant seat would be up for election.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that explanation. If there are no further comments from the public, either in person or online, I'm going to go ahead and close this public hearing. Thank you very much, Dr. Levitt, and thank you all very much, as we said before, for your patience in waiting for this. Those of you who are here at our prior hearing, you understand that we're required to have a certain number of public hearings in a very short time frame. So we can't spread things out. There are certain things that have to be done, including installing our newly elected and re-elected board members. So thank you for your patience. And I know several of you here for subsequent items on our agenda. Thank you very much for your patience in waiting through this whole process. So we will move along. Everyone is welcome to stay for the entirety of our meeting. Can't promise great entertainment value, but there might be something to be learned. But if you would rather not stay for the entire meeting, you're also welcome to not stay. So thank you all for your feedback and input on item A, the redistricting process. Item 9 on our agenda, items for discussion. Mr. Jonah Manager, we have nothing there?
Nope.
Okay. Item 10, new items. Item A, modify number of very large community events permitted at Canal Creek North and Canal Creek South. Are we going directly to Mr. Hare? Are we starting?
No, I think I'm gonna take that one. So this is a cover memo to a policy that the board adopted in November 15th of 2018. That was a rough time, if anyone remembers that time period. The agenda was all written. We had the board meeting noticed, then Borderline and Woolsey happened, but we had that meeting and we were also going through a transition. So directors Nichols and Cusworth were elected, but they had not yet taken a seat. So this policy limiting the number of large events at Canal Creek South and North. I'm going to give a little more context because we have 3 board members that weren't part of this getting established, and it came about from the work of a committee of the board, and it had to do with a lot of neighbor concerns over the growing number of large events that were happening at North and South, the traffic, the noise, the parking, all of the things that are associated with very large events. And you know what they, I think, understandably said is, hey, it's a one-off, one-time thing for this very enthusiastic group using the facility, but we are living here at 365, and when you guys aren't here, soccer's playing, and you know, up at the crack of dawn and that kind of thing. So they had said, so that, you know, there was a lot of debate. We had stakeholder meetings, we had ASO in the meetings, Canal Valley Day reps, Rotary reps, and that kind of stuff. So we came up with this, and then on top of that, we were also dealing with this kind of unique situation with the Persian New Year event, non-event, that was just basically a flash mob of 8,000 people every single year on Nowruz. So we were kind of dealing with all that. On top of that, if anyone remembers, there was a big giant festival that wanted to go in our facilities around this time that we passed on, but did a week's worth of energy and work trying to figure things out with them. It ended up happening in Westlake. I think it was, if anyone remembers, Blue Moon or something, two moons, Blue Sun. It was an event with a pretty big named person, but that Westlake basically said never again. So we kind of dodged that bullet. So this policy didn't come about lightly, and there were reasons for it, and there's a reason we limited it to 3 very, very large community events. So what also was a result, this policy was made, and then we did have that tragedy when we created the Healing Garden at Canal Creek North. And one of the conversations about the Healing Garden was that there'd be an annual time to kind of remember, but also celebrate the community and that use, that is part of Borderline, and kind of the remembrance of those that we lost, and the other people affected so greatly by that tragedy. So that did happen, then COVID happened, so that kind of slowed things down. But we just had Party in the Park with 3,000 folks 3,000 tickets available to be sold this last November. Staff had no issues with that. We didn't have any concerns or calls. And so I'm bringing to you the notion that we would go from the 3 traditional large events to 4 very large community events, because it kind of in recognition that the Party in the Park at Canal Creek North is probably another event that we'd want to see continue. If the board's not comfortable with that, then we'd have to kind of think about, of the 4 events, which ones can be very large. And there's a kind of a cutoff, but it usually involves when you need to use more than one side of the street. Essentially, you don't have to get a special event permit and go to the city and get traffic control and all that if you're only using one side of the Canal Creek North or South. The other thing to think about on limiting events has to do with just operations of the facilities themselves. So there is soccer, there is teen center, senior center, library, all those kind of functions have to modify operations, or may have to modify operations with the events. So that's a little more background that I might give, but for the fact that we have 3 board members that weren't part of the creation of it. So with that, my recommendation is to modify the very large community events permitted at Canal Creek North and South from the current 3 to 4 per year.
Thank you very much. Comments or questions from the board? Director Lang?
Yes, which is always major concern for the district, the board members and so forth is continually being good neighbors to those who live in close proximity to our parks and so forth. So when we first drew up this plan, as mentioned by the general manager, we limited it to 3, and those 3 were kind of grandfathered in because they'd been around for so long and they meant so much to our community. And as we grow and other issues and needs and so forth are present in our community, we have to, reconsider. So I'm not opposed to adding a 4th one, but I want to make sure that we involve our neighbors to that park and then make sure that they know what we are considering. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Director Cussworth, you get to speak earlier rather than later now.
My question would be, is it, if we add this, it is specifically for the borderline party in the park, not that we are just, if they didn't want to do it next year, that it would be open for another organization. So that is my question. Is this specifically to add this to the list that we have of the other 3 people? Or are we just opening up to anyone who applies?
Yeah, it's our intent that it was party in the park. So in one of the paragraphs in there, it says, if the board wishes to include party in the park along with the 3 traditional events, it might direct us to return,
Okay, so I just wanted
yeah.
to clarify that
Yeah.
we're not necessarily opening it up to 4, but we're opening it up to
Party.
party in the park, and that would be the 4th. And if somebody else dropped out, it wouldn't be that we would be opening it up to other organizations per se.
Not without coming to you.
Okay.
Director Nichols?
Yes, just to follow up with what Director Lang was saying, but maybe some more history for me. And going through this process back in 2018, what was the involvement of the neighborhood, of the neighbors, the neighborhoods? Was there some outreach? Was there some public meetings? And as a result of that, was there some agreements, whether official or unofficial, or understandings there was an agreement that 3 would be okay? Just maybe a little more history on the neighborhood involvement to get to that process.
Yeah, we definitely had meetings that involved stakeholder groups. So we included neighbors in that. And then we met at the community room at Canal Creek South. I remember that, where we were. I don't think the district formally agreed on a specific number with the neighbors, but the concept was, respect the traditional events and just try to keep the noise, traffic, parking stuff under control is kind of it. And so, I think the board committee went away and said, okay, this is what we think is the response to all of that conversation. And I don't know, Tom, you were there with me, but.
Yeah, you summarized it correctly. We had several meetings at the community room at Canal Creek South, and Jim had said earlier, in general, it's just the reason we had this was because we're getting, when's it going to stop? You have these 3 traditional. Are you going to have a 4th and a 5th and a 6th and a 7th? When's this going to stop? So can we have these meetings and talk? So we had this, and Jim succinctly and correctly put that. Yeah, out of this came, okay, let's respect the traditional ones and cut it off right there.
Okay, that said, then, if this is changing what those 3 traditional ones were, is there a need then, and I would think that there should be, to reach out to the neighbors and say, hey, the board is considering changing this policy to go from 3 to 4 before we take any action on it, to again, get their input on that.
Yeah, and so I think that what staff, basically when we say, let us go from 3 to 4, they, Party in the Park still has to come to us and get this kind of permit, that the 3 permits that you have tonight, they still have to come to the board and get that permit. And basically that's when we would reach out to the neighbors and go, hey, they're looking for their permit. They want to come back and do Party in the Park again, and at the scale, because I don't think anyone would begrudge staff issues permits for 1,000 people there all the time. You guys never know about it. We're constantly giving permits for up to 1,000. So, that could continue as a tradition and event with 1,000 or fewer people. This really lets them scale it to a point where they can, do the event correctly and, not lose money and that kind of thing. So, and include the number of people they want to. So they just did it with 3,000 people 6 weeks ago or so, and we didn't have any concerns whatsoever from the neighbors. That said, if you guys say go to 4, sometime, I don't know, in the next 3 or 4 months, Brian would come to the park board with, a different park administrator, Andrew would be here, and say, hey, we got a permit for you to consider. And with this many people would be the operative concern, how many are coming.
Okay, and just one last thing regarding the 3 or 4, traditional organizations and activities. I just want to make sure that this is not any guarantee that always happens, because they all still have to come to the board each time every year, which I know we have some of those tonight. But I think it should be a little more fluid that, hey, there are 4 opportunities, 3 opportunities, 4 opportunities, and while these may be traditional, that there's no guarantee. They still have to come each and every year, make sure that the last time was as good as it was supposed to be, and there are no issues for the next time. So I just want to, as much as I appreciate those that have been here and how successful it's been, it shouldn't be just a unending guarantee that year after year it's going to be there. It has to be some performance and understanding things have to be done correctly before we just keep going.
Director Buss?
As being the chair of the Thousand Oaks Chili Cook-Off for the last 5 years, I think I have a personal experience in this and dealing with the neighbors, as my cell phone number is the customer service line for the Thousand Oaks Chili Cook-Off as well. So I can tell you, out of the 5 years, 2 of them, we didn't have it because of COVID, but the 3 years that we did, and last year being one of them, I did get 1 phone call from a neighbor when our letters went out stating that we were having the event and letting them know and that they had a special parking permit. And she just asked about the noise, and she actually ended up being someone who didn't back our park. And I just explained to her, we always are considerate of that, of the neighbors, and make sure that we, are out of there before it gets too late. But honestly, after the events, I've never had a phone call from a neighbor who was upset towards us at the Chili Cook-Off. So I think that, especially if the community understood that the 4th event was a borderline tribute event, our community would wholeheartedly support that once they found out and were educated. So.
Thank you. Couple of comments. I was part of the committee that Tom's working with, Director Gibson and myself, met with the various stakeholders, with the neighbors, and at the time, Jim sort of touched on it, but one of the concerns that the Parks and Planning folks were having was a lot of these events were being held on Caneo Creek South on the sports fields. And so, I mean, Caneo Valley Days was using pretty much the entire facility. Chili Cook-Off was at Caneo Creek South at the time. We had several smaller non-athletic events. I believe the Relay for Life was using the fields around that same time. And my recollection is there were 1 or 2 other medium-sized events that wouldn't fall in this category. But one of the concerns was that the sports fields at Caneo Creek South were getting overused. And with some of these events entailing large trucks moving back and forth, pipes and sprinkler heads and stuff were being damaged. So that was part of the discussion. As a result of those discussions with the stakeholder groups, the Chili Cook-Off agreed to move over to Caneo Creek North, which I think has worked out very well because that's really a neat site. I mean, Caneo Creek South is a lot of grass. That's all there is. You don't have the trees and the picnic areas and everything. So right now there's only 1, possibly 2 events that could be occurring on the sports fields. And any event that might occur on the sports field, it has some fairly or should have some fairly significant restrictions in terms of what kind of equipment can actually be on the fields to minimize any possible damage, not just to the turf, but to all the underlying structure on the fields. Keep in mind that both Canal Creek North and Canal Creek South are public property, that whether it's these 4 events that were discussed in the memo or somewhere down the line, other events, that any event that is wanting to use public facilities should be an event that is benefiting the public. You know, whether it's a large recognized charity or a smaller charity, the purpose, I believe, for using any of these sites for a large event should be benefiting the public. Jim, you said that the purpose of this recommendation is specifically related to the 4 events. When we first developed the policy back in when we had the discussions, 2017, 2018, it was 3 large events, regardless of whether they're existing events or future events. But just to say that only these 4 events can be considered, I don't think that is quite as flexible as I think the intent should be. The intent should be no more than 4 large events as defined in the memo, events that are benefiting the public, but not necessarily the 4 events that we currently are either considering or will be considering in coming months. So if we approve this recommendation, I would like to make sure that it clarifies that, and as Director Nichols said, none of the existing events have any guarantees, and yes, they all have to go through individual processes, as 3 of them are tonight. But the fact that they're approved one year, if one event disappears, it might be possible to consider a new event. But in any case, there should be no more than 4 large events in these 2 sites. And the other consideration, in my opinion, should be that we need to look at which of the 2 sites are being used specifically. And I'll certainly admit I have long ties to AYSO soccer, so heavy events that are bringing trucks and stuff onto the sports fields, I have a little more concern about than an event that takes over all of Canal Creek North. So if we're looking at 4 new events 20 years down the line, there needs to be some balance between whether you're using Canal Creek North or Canal Creek South. If those factors are taken into consideration, I'd have no problem in supporting the recommendation to allow 4 large events per year. So if there are no other further board questions or comments, Director Nichols.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had one final up, since you mentioned you were on that committee. Why 3 or why 4 as opposed to 5 or 6 or 12, 1 a month? You know, what was it that kind of decided that 3 was appropriate? You know, maybe 4 tonight. What were those types of considerations that said, yeah, anything more than this, now that becomes an issue?
The primary consideration, and I said many of those events were taking place on the sports fields at the time. Primary consideration was how much wear and tear and damage are being done to the fields, and the fact that Canal Creek South is designed primarily as sports fields and not as a community party location. And various sports groups, primarily AYSO, but other sports groups as well, use the fields most of the year when the fields are not under refurbishment in the summertime. So it was felt that at the time there were 3 events. Any more than that would be, as Tom said, would be very difficult to handle without impacting various sports groups that are using the athletic fields, the sports fields.
Yeah, what Chuck said, in between staff time and commitment and field availability and the damage that's done to the fields and the facilities, it's just, we're pretty maxed out on what we could do, because we remember also too, we have field refurbishment, which happens usually the beginning of June to the beginning of August, like, so that nothing can happen on the fields then too. So there's a lot of time constraints also for the facilities.
And no one wants to do a large event between December and March. The weather,
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, Director Cusworth.
I think another consideration we have to think of is parking traffic, closing down the Global Center, the Teen Center and the library. So, I mean, we've talked about the neighbors having the noise and we've talked about the fields, but some large events, if they're not well regulated, it can generate a lot of trash. If we're using people we haven't worked with before, it would have to definitely be very well explained on what our rules would be, that they're meeting all of our requirements. So I don't think we can take it very lightly on that it would be any 4 events. I mean, if somebody dropped out, there would have to be a lot of consideration on putting somebody else in. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you. Director Beth.
So am I hearing you right that the conclusion from the committee was more concerned about the sports fields and its use than the neighbors really being upset about the noise factor? Because that's, I'm sorry, what I thought.
It's partly the usage of the fields. One of the advantages to Canal Creek North versus Canal Creek South, there are neighbors right next to the field. And I mean, historically, we've gotten complaints, everything from referee whistles to bells ringing, and because the neighbors are very close there. Neighbors in Canal Creek North are more separated, very well separated from the facilities there. So certainly neighbors are a significant consideration, but whether Canal Creek North or Canal Creek South is the primary location, for large events at Canal Creek North, the parking becomes an issue at Canal Creek South, and that's why Mr. Friedel said that by definition, a large event is impacting both north and south. Yes, Director Lang.
Yeah, differ a little bit with you as far as neighbors and their proximity to Canal Creek North. There are neighbors to the east, as you know, and in the past there had been complaints, with various neighbors. But also I just heard a comment from staff that they're kind of maxed out, and if you had a say, or you do have a say, but if you were to make a comment, would you and your staff be willing to take on a 4th event?
Oh, definitely. And I think Marissa had said it earlier on that, because when we did the policy, it was before the borderline tragedy. And I do believe the Party in the Park is an appropriate community event that would be welcomed for the community. And I know, yes, I agree with you. At North, we get complaints probably more than we do at South, just like Royce and I were just talking, it could be someone's birthday party for 200 people, we get complaints. But I believe if we were taking this policy in March of 2019, I believe we'd have 4 events that we would be considering. What we're considering tonight would have been considered in March of 2019, but unfortunately it was before the borderline tragedy, or when we did all this, or actually just after. But so I think that's staff would support that, because I think that's something very important to the community for the healing process. And a lot of the research we've done, and I've talked with Brian a lot about it too, but it's that constant knowing that, victims, families, survivors, whatever, that they know they can lean on each other. They might not talk to each other all year long, but they know they'll be at the party in the park on that particular day to remember. So it's very important to continue that tradition.
Definitely understand the meaning of that event and the integral part it has within our community after what we all went through with it. But just want to make sure that our
Yeah.
staff isn't overworked.
Yeah, we supported, and then said we went from 2021, there was 1,000 people for Party in the Park, and this year we had 3,000 for Party in the Park. Not one phone call, nothing, and staff was fine with what happened, and it wasn't that, I would say not a big deal, but it wasn't too much of a burden on staff.
Yeah, just make a quick comment. The healing garden was mentioned. And when we first opened that, I don't know how many thousands of people, you were chair at the time, but there were, a lot more people than these events that we're talking about. And I would assume the neighborhood understood what was going on and why there was this big event, and that they would, be less concerned about that being an ongoing event.
And we tweak from every year as we go along, but the last couple of years too, for the events, we've to like Director Cussworth's comment, we do, if there is something going on at the teen center or the Global, at the library, if they choose not to shut down, we protect the facilities with, we hire the security and put the cost, then we invoice the applicant for that, but so that we have security at those facilities to allow patrons to come into the facility. So we protect those parking areas for them.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Let's see, that's a different card. Okay, I will entertain a motion. Director Lang.
Yes, I'd like to recommend that we modify the number of very large community events permitted at Canal Creek North and Canal Creek South from 3 to 4.
Thank you very much. Director Cussworth.
I'll make a second on that.
Thank you very much. Any further comments or questions? If not, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries unanimously. We'll move on to agenda item 10B, dealing with the Rotary Club Chili Cook-Off. That way, Mr. Harris. Sir.
Oh, and that I might make an announcement. And it's bye-bye. Director Buss's very first meeting, and we did have a conversation, and she was very astute to ask whether there was a conflict she had to be concerned with. And although she does not have a financial conflict and does not probably legally need to recuse herself, we had a conversation about her being the chili cook-off chair for the past 4 years. So I said an abundance of caution, appearance of impropriety, et cetera, she might want to recuse herself. And that's what she just did.
Okay, thanks, Chair Huffer, members of the board. So this is for the Thousand Oaks Rotary Club Chili Cook-Off and Craft Brew Festival for the 2023, which will be happening in May. Chuck, I'd just let you know too. So worked it out with ASO that the rain date's going to be the following one. Okay, you got that. So a couple recommendations here is to determine that it's exempt under CEQA. Under CEQA, this, we believe it's a class 23 exemption in a nutshell. Those are facilities that have a history of being used for events like this. And so whether it's Chili Cook-Off, Canal Valley Days, Persian New Year, Wild Oaks, formerly known as Oak Heart, that these facilities are used for such purposes and have historical same usage. So that's an exemption under CEQA. Then we have the agreement for a Chili Cook-Off 2023 before you. It's very substantially similar to the previous year's agreements. The event will be held on Sunday, May 7th, and additional parking at Canal Creek South and Canal Creek Northwest. They're going to pay us just under $5,000. Last year's event generated nearly $134,000 for various Rotary charities. And I've got the beautiful and wonderful Mr. Nelson Buss here to tell you all about the chili cook-off and how wonderful it's going to be this year, and that they're just looking to break $350,000 this year.
Yeah, so as you guys are familiar, we had to take a couple years off. So last year or this year was our first time back after a couple years off, and none of us are quite sure how many people would actually come from the community again. And we found out everybody came, and it was a wonderful event still. We had our concerns about the number of people that showed up, but we were able to handle them graciously. I think all of you are familiar. This is run by the Thousand Oaks Rotary Club. We are a nonprofit organization. We're actually to the point where we pay our dues. We are a self-funding operation. So all of the money that we raise from these events goes directly to community organizations. So that 133,000 doesn't go to pay any of our bills. It goes directly to the community, go back to the community. So one of the things that I love about this event is that once upon a time, I was a teenager and I just went there for fun and to hang out with my friends. And then in my 20s, I found myself running a chili booth. And it wasn't until about 6 years in that I actually knew it was a charity event and what it was all about. But I had spent over a decade and a half of my life enjoying it every year. And so I'm grateful that this event that's been going on for over 50 years in our community can continue to exist. And I'm really grateful that I have the opportunity to be one of the people that's now responsible for it. I thank you guys for the opportunity for us to do it one more time. I feel like that we've improved it every year and we've made it a fun family event. We have a kids zone. Children are free to attend. We've fenced off all the beer people and we charge them an exorbitant amount of money to taste craft beers. And I really enjoy that part of it. And we still have a tremendous amount of chili, tremendous amount of fun, and 2 stages with music, quiet enough so that the neighbors aren't too upset about it. And we have a great time. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Why don't you, Nelson, if you could just stay up there for a couple minutes in case.
Yeah,
anybody in
if
the
you have any
board-
questions.
Any has questions or comments, either of staff or of representative,
One question.
Dr. Cusworth.
So I was at the chili cook-off for a little bit last year and as you know, there were a lot of traffic problems. And when I went to go get some chili, I couldn't find a line because it was so crowded. So I'm assuming you've had a debrief with the Rotary and have you talked about ways that you might solve some of those problems?
I was going to say our biggest push this year is to find more people to make chili. As I mentioned, I used to run a chili booth with my friends. They were there again this year. If you see the BHMC guys, the guys with the motorcycles, that's my kids. And we typically make about 20 to 25 gallons of chili when we do our booth. And I find that it's best, the actual chili IHS competition people, they're technically only required to make about 3 gallons of chili. So you'll see the people that are actually in the serious competition, they're trying to qualify for worlds. And so they take it a little more seriously. What I'd like is to get a lot more participation from organizations within our community to come out and do their own booths. And usually we can get them to do 10, 20 gallons. And so that's where our supply really comes from, is from community sourced. So I'm reaching out to all you guys. If anybody knows how to make chili, let's do it.
So did you feel that the facility at Canal Creek North was large enough, or did you feel it was too crowded, or did it work well? Were there no complaints? What about the parking? Did that work out okay for you?
I think at the peak, we definitely had a big crowd up in that northern area. And what I think that we're going to be able to do here henceforth is kind of figure out, because we typically ignore that southern tail of the park just because we didn't feel like we had enough to kind of spread into that zone. I think we're going to be looking into how we can actually use the entire park now.
Okay, all righty. So what about parking? Is there any alternatives to parking? Because I told my friend to come and he said he couldn't get off the freeway.
I was going to say, so we obviously use the southern parking lot for Canal Creek Park South, but there's also the northern end over by the equestrian fields. So we use that parking area as well. And so I try to encourage anybody I know to park over on the north side on the other side of the freeway, because it's a hop, skip, and a jump, and you come in through. We have an entrance and a gate over on that side as well.
Okay. All right. Well, I know that this has been a huge tradition and I'd like to thank you. It seems like at one time the chili cook-off was kind of a Wild event. And when I was there, it seemed very family friendly and,
I
were a
credit
lot
that
of
to the fact that I'm aging.
so, yeah, we had a lot of people, kids at our CRPD booth making crafts and getting their face painted. And that was, I think really conducive to our family friendly community. So thank you very much for adding that in.
Thank you.
Director Nichols?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the rerun of what we experienced last year. It was a great event. And I know there were some logistical challenges, and I hope you're able to work with your team to get those addressed. I mean, from CRPD, it's, it's just another opportunity to make our facility available for a great community event. But, if you get some of those murmurings of things that didn't go right, then pretty soon people don't show up anymore. So obviously that's your challenge. I'll leave that with you.
Yeah, I always tell everybody, we're just a bunch of amateurs, so.
Yeah, but I was gonna say, you mentioned about the competitor chili cookies, and I've got a next door neighbor that's been doing it for years and actually has gone to the World Championships. And I tell you, they've got a little routine down and they know, and they do that just the way they do it. So if you could find some of these people who just want to, try grandma's chili out and see how it works, make a bunch of it and provide it, because there was a lot of complaints that there just wasn't enough chili to go around. And if you can somehow muster that up, whether you find some competition to do it within yourself or whatever, I think that'd be a great asset to be able to bring that into the community.
It's actually something I've been kicking around. We could have a conversation afterwards, but that I've got ideas.
Good. All right. But thank you.
Director Lang, you had another question or comment?
Combination comment question. First piggybacking on a comment that Director Cutsworth mentioned about the traffic and someone on the freeway couldn't get off. I was on the freeway on 23 heading south, and the traffic was almost to Las Flores, the bridge that crosses, and we were all to the far right. And people seemed to be patient. There were a few horns honking and a couple screeching brakes, but basically I think people understood that they wanted to get to this event, so they're going to have to park in line. Have you considered a shuttle type of a
I
thing?
know we operate at least one shuttle. I don't know where the parking is for that. I think we were trying to use the high school, but that was, I want to say 2018. I don't know if we did that in 2022. So, but I'm with you. I think, because we have shuttles running, of course, from the South Park over to our
Right.
event. And we've got a shuttle running from that other parking lot in the equestrian field. The reality is that, we are the suburbs. Everybody lives in their cars. I'm sure all of us log at least 20,000 miles on our cars a year, and it's unfortunate. I would love to come up with plans for everybody to be able to walk and bike to these events, and try to make our roads a little more accessible for people that use alternate modes of transportation. And but that's a different conversation. But as far as it goes, as far as the reality of cars is, if we're going to have 8,000 people there, I guarantee we're going to have at least 5,000 cars. It's just the way it's going to work.
Right. Well, as a long-term resident, since 65, I've been to many chili cook-offs, and this year's, the last chili cook-off event was the largest that I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah, it was our largest attendance by easily 40% over any other year ever in history.
And well, congratulations on that. And that just, reinforces that that particular event is definitely benefiting our community when you see the funds that you're able to distribute back into the community. So thank you for all the extra time you put into making this a success, and we look forward to another one in the future.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Just a couple of quick comments. First of all, this past year's event was a lot of fun. Fortunately, all of us were sharing time at the CRPD booth, and I got the first shift, so I got to get there early, and I actually got some chili. So, but it was an amazing event. And I mentioned this earlier when we were talking about large events. I don't know if you were involved at the time, but we really appreciate the chili cook-off. The Rotary folks agreeing to relocate over to Canal Creek North, and it sounds like that's working out well for you folks. So
Yeah, I actually joined the Rotary Club the year after they moved to the north side. Because I made a comment to a Rotarian. I said, this is going terribly. Nobody's coming anymore. What's the city gonna do about this? And they're like, the city doesn't run this.
my only complaint is that you, being a Kiwanian myself, you stole the idea of adding craft beer to your.
I give complete credit to the Kiwanis
Thank
for
you.
that. Just so you know.
Thank you. Anyway, thank you very much. If there are no other comments or questions, we have 2 staff recommendations on this item. Director Cusworth.
I recommend that we, one, determine that the Thousand Oaks Rotary Club, the Chili Cook-Off and Craft Food Festival is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, and that number 2, we authorize the general manager to execute the Chili Cook-Off Agreement of 2023.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
I have a second from Director Lang. Any other comments or questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We do have one recusal. So it's 4-0 with 1 recusal. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. And tell Bill Steele I said hi.
Okay, moving on to item 10C, Rotary Club of Westlake Village and the now named Wild Oaks Country Music Festival. This year is also.
Sure, thanks, Chair Huffer.
Mr. Hare.
Marissa, just unfortunately, Nelson really screwed it up and it didn't get passed. So just letting you know, he blew it. Yeah, so this is for the Wild Oaks Country Music Festival. Similarly or formerly known as the Oak Country Music Festival, which was run with Westlake Village Rotary, and this was with Westlake Village Rotary too. It started in 2012. We had an event in 2013. Unfortunately, a lot of neighbor complaints about noise. We added a noise monitoring control plan on that, which is still in place. We took a little break because of COVID. Last year, Westlake Village Rotary wasn't prepared to move forward with any kind of event. So I told them, like similar to we're talking about like our large event policy. I said, hey, this year, either you got to do it or not do it. And so they move forward with an event. The agreement's very similar to the ones we had with Westlake Village Rotary. Again, the last one was in 2019. The last event that we actually approved one for 2020, but it was canceled because of COVID. The last event that happened was in 2019. The agreement is very similar to the one that was approved in 2020 and went on in 2019. Again, we need to determine that it's exempt under CEQA. It's the same discussion regarding the Chili Cook-Off to Class 23, similar events with historical usage for the facilities. And the event would take place on Saturday, June 3rd. And then right after they clean up, that's when the fields go under refurbishment. This is at Canal Creek South. There'd be maximum ticket sales are limited to 10,000, and that was the last approved amount for Oak back in 2020. And the amount of the payment to the district is $14,300. And I'll turn it over to Steve. Wow. What's going on? I haven't seen you in a while. Yeah, nice to see you, Steve. Yeah, Steve is gonna wow you with his own good looks and tell you about the event.
I do. I do.
Hello.
I have more done when I get another one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Steve Kerrigan. I've met and know some of you, Chuck and Jim. We've worked together. Doug, we've worked together over the last few years with the previous Country Music Festival. So I'm here tonight to introduce some new members of our club. Mary Catherine McBride, would you please join me up here? She is the event producer and co-chair of our Country Music Festival. She is a new member of our club, and she is president of Gobido Productions, an event production company located here in Newbury Park. I'd also like to bring up Craig Manning. He's the event co-producer and co-chair with the Event Essentials and Event Online Services and Companies that handles ticketing, vendor registration, payments, and he's also located here in Thousand Oaks. And we do have a video I'd like to show you. And then I'll come back to my bullet points and answer any questions you may have. So, as you can see, we have a top line level of country music artists for this year. The event will also provide elements of food, fun, and music, beer and wine, as you just saw. The event is geared to provide fun for the whole family. As we did in the past, we have the YMCA will present and manage an area called Kids Corral to raise funds for their organization. We're also adding to it this year the People's Choice International Hot Sauce that was Old Boney Mountain Hot Sauce Foundation for Kids. It's a Newbury Park nonprofit, and the attendees will have a chance to vote on the hot sauce as well. Just like with the Rotary Club of Thousand Oaks Chili Cook-Off, 100% of our net profits goes back to the community. And in the past, the charities that we and nonprofits that we donated to are the ones that we're all very familiar with. Is MANA, Senior Concerns are some of the ones that we donated to. We're looking at this year probably 6,000 tickets total in sales, as opposed to what we were approved for with our previous country music festival. As far as traffic is concerned, we did do a shuttle and we rented Thousand Oaks High School. I arranged for it, and the school dirt parking lot at Conejo Park South. That's a separate area that we rented for traffic control. And we didn't seem to have the traffic problems with our last event in 2018, 2019, because we were shuttling 2000 Oaks High School. And we are very aware of, and I am, work personally with Marlon on the issues with sound. As we had in 2013, we had a vendor come in and blow it for everybody, which caused us to have to monitor the sound more closely. And we discussed that, Tom, in previous meetings on trying to control that. So this year in the site map, we changed the stage to try to change the speaker direction a little. And we're also going to contract with the same company, which is Marlon Hale, I think it was. So this is the first year, obviously, back after a COVID lockdown. We hope to raise not only awareness for the community and charities, but to bring the community back together again in a fun-filled, safe atmosphere. Our financial goal this year is to cover the costs and earn a small margin of profit. We have no idea how much that will be, but we're looking for at least something in the 5 figures. Do you have any questions?
Thank you very much, Steve. Do we have any questions of our speakers up there and or of staff? Director Lang?
Yes, good presentation. Looks like a great and exciting event. I hadn't been to the new one, Wild Oaks, but I had been to the Oak Heart many festivals in the past. How many stages? I quickly looked and I see there are 2 stages. Main stage, how many?
One stage.
One stage.
One stage this time.
And the beer garden doesn't have a stage in there. Okay. I think, Mr. Hare, some of you may know that this is his last meeting. He's retiring from the district. And a few days ago, thereabouts, we had a retirement party for him. And I happened to sit next to a gentleman who I don't know, how well you know him, but he's the person who does all your sound.
Yeah, it was Marlin, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can cover your ears. He's very complimentary of you and working with you. And he just thought that there was no issues as far as neighbor complaints and so forth. And I hope that was the case, because when this festival, Oak Heart, started many years ago, there was a real reaction to the.
Yeah, no, Marlon does a really good job of, because he's got direct link to the control booth. And yes, it does have, and not to get too technical, but a lot of times it's about the like intervals. And yes, someone might come on there and says, welcome Thousand Oaks, and goes, it goes past the level, but then it immediately goes right back down. So, but he's pretty good about talking directly to the booth to adjust if necessary as they go along.
Okay, history, how many, per the staff report, how many violations of sound have we had over the years?
Less than 5, over the whole years.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Considering the, type of live entertainment and so forth, and the number of community people who benefit from it. So.
And it might be 1 or 2. I can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah.
Okay, well, very good. You've set a good example for Andrew to make sure we keep our sound levels down and not be too obtrusive to our neighbors. So, thank you.
Don't leave yet, folks. Are there any other board comments or questions? Director Cusworth?
So I don't see the figures here, but it seemed like we had, and I don't see an extra thing in my packet. It might be there. I just didn't see it. So how much are you planning to raise? How much do you usually raise in the past? This is a pretty big operation.
You want to see the financials?
Yeah, I was just wondering the bottom line.
I have financials for,
Well, I think I had it, but I just need the bottom line.
It is.
Oh, is that it? I didn't see it in my packet for some reason.
They're all 3.
Okay, so this seems like a lot of work for that net income, but I guess you're okay with that because you find it as a good community.
I think it was received well with, by the community.
So do we have a lot of people from our community come, or would you say most people come from out of town?
It comes from all over,
Comes from all over? Okay,
all over the country.
Majority of the community.
okay. So I was just wondering, and I don't think that kids need to come to every event, certainly, but do many children come? I mean, I go a lot to the symphony and there's not a lot of kids there, so that's okay. I'm just
Just the
wondering,
same.
yeah, no, I'm just wondering, do many kids come to the event? Is this like kid appropriate?
Yes.
Doesn't have to be. I'm
No,
just curious.
it's parents bring their young children. That's why we have the kids corral area that YMCA puts on. And there's a bouncy bounce house, or I'm not sure exactly what will be in there this year. But we've created an area specifically so the parents can bring their children and make it a family day of event.
And that's been successful. The kids have been happy
Yes.
there and.
It's
the way I
been
see it,
successful,
It's
yeah.
been good. Okay.
We have a long line at the kids' corral waiting to get in.
Oh, okay. So that was nice. I was just kind of curious about that.
Yeah.
Because from the video, it didn't look like, oh, I think I'll take my kids there. So, but, but that's okay. I was just kind of curious about that. All right. And so you said you usually are supporting senior concerns and MANA with
I
your
can't hear
profits?
you.
Okay, great.
Can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
He can't hear you. Get closer
Yeah,
to the
senior
mic.
concerns, MANA. I couldn't hear your question.
Oh, I said, I was just reiterating that you said you usually are supporting senior concerns and MANA are two of the
Yes.
things. It all
Now, our
comes through
Rotary
Westlake Rotary though. It goes, all of your contributions go through the Westlake Rotary.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
all right. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Yes,
Sure,
Director
yes.
Nichols.
Thank you for all the background information, talking points, and everything. I mean, just, there's a lot going on here. And I just was wondering with the music, the hot sauce competition, the food course, the beer areas, the kids areas. I mean, is this like, just like a constant flow of activity? I've not attended this, but it just seems like you gotta, you hand one of these things out so people know where to go, because otherwise I'd get lost.
We have a lot of volunteers. Rotary reaches out to a lot of different organizations and they get their service hours to work and volunteer to help direct families to where to go. We have, it's all volunteers inside, it's all Rotary and related Kiwanis and the other Rotary clubs. We all pitch in to work the event day of.
It's
It's a lot of
amazing.
work.
Yes, I was gonna say, this is a lot of work.
It's a
All right.
lot of work.
Looks like it'll be a lot of fun too.
It is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Director Buss.
In the report that we received, it had stated that you guys had donated about $100,000 to charity, but in your profit and loss here, your net income is less than $15,000. So do you guys donate directly from the event and not through the Rotary Club at allocation time, or?
I can't hear you.
So what I was asking is that in the report that we received from Tom, it had stated that you guys have donated over $100,000 from your event to charity. And the profit and loss that we have here show that you net income was $14,889. So I was curious, are you donating the 100,000 directly from the event and not going to Rotary and given out through allocations?
I'm not sure how it shows on here.
Excuse me, Director
The
Buss.
net
if I could,
income.
Yeah.
I
don't know if
believe
it's-
that $100,000 figure is for the
Well,
life of the
yeah,
event.
yeah, so
not
let
just
me,
one
no,
year.
it actually,
Oh,
I'm
well, I emailed
incorrect.
it.
I'm
Is that
incorrect
included in the-
incorrect on all the above. Let me clarify.
Yeah.
So like the first event, I should have said each event, I said events could, I should say that like, I think it was in 2018 was the profit level was like $90,000 then. I couldn't tell you why 2019 was less. So that's something that they would have to tell you about. But like the first event was a loss. I remember, right? First
Yes.
event was a loss. And so they've had 8 events, give or take. First event was a loss, and it went from a loss to 0 to 10 to 30 to 40 to 60 to 80 to 90. And then the last year was 14. Was it rain? It was weather. Okay, there you go. So, but yeah, it was, and I didn't mean to say each event. I meant to say typically each event, they're recently pushing to towards $100,000.
Okay,
Yeah. Because they kept it going up and up and up each year prior.
okay, that makes more sense because
Yeah.
that's why I emailed that.
I'm glad you explained it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just very quickly, first, it's neat to see all these familiar faces up here. Good to see all of you again. I have to admit that I didn't recognize any of the names of the performers. You know, if they were 60s rock acts, I'd like that, but it's, I have gone to, I think, 2 of the events in the past, and although I'm not a country music appreciator, it was a fun event. Just to see all the people there was really, really neat. So I wish you best of luck on this year's event, and with that, I do have, I don't know, is Brian still here? Yeah, I had a speaker card for Brian. You want to make some comments?
Sorry, I love that guy. My name is Brian Hines, and I'm actually here as a representative of Hines and Hale. And the Rotary Club of Westlake Village is actually contractually obligated to partner with Hines and Hale on this event called OCART. In front of you guys, you have a good description of what OCART was, and they've changed the name, but they can't really legally do that. I'm not, a lawyer, but I did file a lawsuit the last 2 days, and we're asking that you guys wait 30 days before you actually vote on this and approve this. This lawsuit talks about intellectual property. The maps that they actually put in front of you, which was great for me, are maps that we developed together as OCART. They're not Wild Oaks Music Festival apps. So the Rotary Club, as you guys know, they have like a 4-way test, and that 4-way test, number one thing is it the truth? The things in front of you are not the truth. The OCART Music Festival started in 2012, went 2013, had noise issues. 2014, 2019, I fixed those with the club. So the things in front of you are not the truth. And therefore, with this lawsuit that we filed, it's going to stop them from being able to put on the event in June. And obviously they don't care about contracts because they've signed on 3 artists and haven't even gotten your guys' approval before they started advertising this week. So a lot of things that are going on. I hope you guys look further into it. I hope you wait 30 days before you make a decision, and don't let them change the past just to benefit their future by changing the name. It's not fair. It's not beneficial to all concerned. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Brian.
I can give you one, no problem.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the board? If not, I'll entertain motion. We have 2 staff recommendations need to be voted on. Director Lang.
Did I understand? You requested a delay?
I requested you guys wait 30 days before you vote on this. The lawsuit has been filed, and we're concerned that signing a document like that, like this agenda document, this contract, it violates a lot of intellectual property laws and things like that. So.
Yeah, well. So, unlike the city, we don't have a lawyer sitting here at the dais with us. I could scan the agreement really quick and see if there's like a duty to defend indemnity agreement against intellectual property lawsuits within the agreement, but I don't know that there is. Are we named in the lawsuit, or is it only? Brian,
you are not currently named, as you have not signed anything that says OCART or Wild Oaks, and tying the two. The Rotary Club is going to indemnify you, and when I sue, they will have to protect you guys if something does happen, just so you know, and that'll all be on the Rotary Club.
So yeah, so it's news to Rotary, news to us. We have the report completely prepared. We're ready to act. We have a meeting on January 5th and a meeting on January 19th. I mean, given the allegations or the statement that there's a lawsuit out there, I'd say for CRPD, we've done these permits later than December. We try to get them done before the end of the year. It has happened where we haven't gotten some of these done until January, February over the years. So I don't know how much a delay might hurt Westlake Rotary, but if the board's comfortable, I'd actually propose that we put this off a meeting or two just to understand what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, without formal legal opinion, I think we are best served to hold off on this. Steve?
I'm right here.
Okay. What impact, we've already briefly discussed impact from the Park District staff. What impact is if any, would a delay have on your event?
Well, we can't delay it too long because we need to start paying, put deposits on talent that are going to play on June 3rd. So timing is really important. I'm not sure exactly what we do.
I think it's crucial now. We have to keep moving forward steadily, 5 months away. And everything that goes along with it is now, it has to move along very quickly. So any time could hurt, a delay would hurt.
Would you, I don't see it necessarily in this agreement, but would the Rotary Club agree to whatever amendment a lawyer might find necessary to this agreement that says you would indemnify and defend and hold the district harmless from any lawsuits whatsoever?
That's fine, absolutely.
Then it's really not between us, and whatever happens between them is between them, but we can protect ourselves by, having a lawyer, clearly make sure the district wouldn't be responsible for defending or.
Yeah, we've got some language in section 7.
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. If you want to get more specific, because section 7 mostly talks about
trip and fall,
falls
yeah.
and property damage and that sort of thing. It doesn't talk about intellectual property.
So, yes, Director Lang.
Thank you, Director, Chair Helfer. So, Jim, the staff would make sure that there is no resolution, but you'd make sure in the agreement that we would be not liable for any issues coming out of the lawsuit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of spitballing here at the dais, but I would probably add paragraph 7.5 that's like a further clarification of the indemnity and, hold harmless language that basically makes sure that, we're not responsible for any way, shape or form, any kind of allegations of infringement on copyright or trademark or intellectual property or anything like that might be out there. That's the only way I could recommend that we not delay and maybe move forward if we're in fact that tight on time, which I get the need to act with talent and locking them in by certain dates, et cetera, et cetera. I don't, so yeah, I would probably call an attorney tomorrow, make sure that we get the right paragraph written up, given the allegations, and if Brian would be willing to let us see that lawsuit, if just to make it clear that the expense of the litigation is between the parties and not the district. It would be the way I'd recommend moving forward if it's requiring action tonight. Otherwise, I'd say wait a meeting or two.
We have a club from the president, my name is Mike Dutra, we have not received anything from Brian's other order. So.
Can you ask him? Would you like a copy of the lawsuit? Anybody?
So it's recorded?
Well, delivered us by.
Could you go to the microphone to make your comments, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
My name is Mike Dutra. I'm the president of the Rotary Club, and we've been dealing with this, and we have not received anything from Brian's lawyer in regards to a lawsuit. So we do have legal representation for, they asked for the naming rights back for the event, but we've renamed the event. And we're going on with the event with Gobi Doe Productions. So that's where we stand as a club for the Westlake Rotary Club. Yeah.
So from this point, I would like to ask the board to vote tonight to approve and go ahead with it, and our attorneys will deal with what Ryan brought up tonight.
Is there some way that we can modify the authorization of executing the agreement to make it contingent on, I don't know if it'd be approval, but review by our legal counsel?
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, no, I'd make the legal counsel watch this exchange that's now recorded, and I'd give them our current indemnity provision and just say, and if Brian would be willing to share the lawsuit to the extent, I'd say, can you draft a clause that keeps CRP out of it, and whatever legal issues need to get resolved is resolved at not an expense to CRPD. And then that would, I imagine, allow Rotary to address the lawsuit as they see fit and move forward with the idea that they could do the event if they resolve it, you know, to the extent there's any legal issues with Brian.
Okay, then I would, yes, Director Nichols.
I was gonna make that same suggestion. In fact, I'd be happy to make a motion to that regard where we go ahead, send and approve it, but it's, you know, based on the fact that this is all brand new information to us and we have information before us that is adequate enough to make a decision. However, with this potential change, that I would, you know, make a motion to approve it as the recommendations as made by staff. However, contingent upon, you know, receipt of whatever formal legal notification we need to make a better informed decision on that. And that the general manager has the authority to modify the agreement in such a way to cover us, indemnify whatever that is going to require. And then once we do get the formal notification, as it, you know, obviously, Mr. Hines was indicating that maybe there's some involvement with CRPD, but it sounds to me like it's, you know, between a couple other parties there, and we're just kind of a bystander at this point. And, but we can, you know, move forward with what we've seen so far. And so that's why I'd suggest we go ahead and I'd make that motion that we go ahead and approve what the staff recommendation is with the contingency on the modified language to the contract. And, you know, subsequent to any further information that we receive that would cause us not to want to proceed, and then staff could bring that information back to us in January if we need to alter that decision.
Okay, so that's your motion then.
Yes, I'm sorry for it being so long. There's a lot of explanation.
If I could
there.
get a second on that, then we'll have any further discussion. Director Lang?
I'll go ahead and second it with the additional information as stated by Director Nichols and understood by our general manager and staff. And I, you know, support the legalizing and protecting CRPD. So.
Okay, so we have a motion, a second, just a comment from the chair. Hopefully Rotary understands that if our legal counsel comes back and says that there's some exposures that can't be covered by the agreement, that we're gonna have to review this and go through the process. But you should get an answer from our staff, hopefully, maybe not by the end of the week, but by early next week.
Yeah, not by the end of the week, but probably, you know, sometime next week, sure.
Okay.
For sure.
All right, so we have a motion, a second. Any further questions or comments? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, Director Buss, did you?
So we're voting that they are getting approved, subject to being reviewed by our attorneys, correct?
Yes, for the specific issue.
Instead of just waiting to be reviewed and then vote on it when we know.
Yes,
Yeah, because they're saying they need to act to secure their talent before January 3rd.
Well, I mean, that's,
That's, yeah, so it's.
okay. I think,
you're approving then?
yeah.
Okay, so the motion is approved 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 10D, Canal Valley Days. Mr. Hare.
Sure. Chair Hufford, members of the board, similarly to the, well, not exactly similar to what we were just talking about. But the Canal Valley Days, want to find them categorically exempt for the same exemptions 23, that historical use of the facilities for like events. And then authorize the general manager to execute the Canal Valley Days agreement for 2023. The event will be exclusively on the parking like it was last year, not on the turf. The agreement's very similar to what it was in the past. And it goes for from June 12th to Tuesday, June 27th. And Mr. Akery is here with his lovely partner and showgirl to she's gonna be the point in go ahead, Frank.
That's my lovely wife, Lynn, who is the new Arts Council Director.
Oh, congratulations.
Very famous artist. And a wonderful wife. Happy holidays, staff and council. Canal Valley Days again.
And directors,
Pardon?
and directors, not council.
Council, staff, right? Board,
Directors.
directors, staff.
Sorry about the thing.
I'm trying, George. I'm
It's only
really
been 20
trying.
years, Frank, so it's okay.
First of all, I'm really bummed that Tom's leaving. I brought something for you, which I think is pretty cool. So on all the records that I played on, that you listened to, I had a keyboard that I played, and there's only 20 controls on it. So I ripped one out and I made a keychain for you. So you can put it on your gate just to know that musically, you're the man. I'll put that right here. CBD, obviously really important to me. I've been involved in Canal Valley Days for 58 years. The Jans family, the Acre family, the Worley family, the Petersons, we all started it back in the day. So after World War II, we all got together to celebrate basically the success of the ranches and community and everything else. It was not a nonprofit event at that time because there really was no nonprofit companies or associations in Thousand Oaks. Through the years, it's changed. It's gone through a lot of different changes. I ended up buying it when it fell into kind of dismay and lost a lot of money. With Tom Hare's help, we turned it back into a charity again, which I'm indebted to you forever, Tom, for turning that whole thing around. And it was our collaboration that actually got it in a better place. At that time, when I bought it, I owned the chili cook-off, Thousand Oaks Chili Cook-Off. I went to a meeting with Jim Friedel and we gave it back. We gave him back the bell. Remember, I'm standing on the table and you're like, sit down. And the chili cook-off, anyway, it went to the proper place, which is kind of CVD's history of just community. There's been so many different nonprofits involved. Kiwanis Club, of course, Chuck knows all about, hosted all the parades, and in exchange, got to sell all the beer at Canal Valley Days. Since then, CVD's become smaller and smaller just because of the way the world works. The last 2 years, we had COVID. So basically, we let everybody in for free. We let the carnival make money to survive because they came directly out here to do the event and then go home. There was no routing for them. So the numbers that you see in the last 2 years do not reflect in any way what Canal Valley Days is or does. We also take advantage, and I guess the point that I want to make is the numbers that you see and what you think Canal Valley Days does, you really have no idea how far it reaches. I got a proclamation from the governor this year for what we did at Canal Valley Days. Okay, we brought in foster children that are in protective care, and we gave them a day of celebration all by themselves that really nobody knows about. We don't advertise. You can't take pictures. We can't let anybody see the kids, but we do that kind of stuff all the time. We also reach out and help all the other nonprofits in town to be successful, whether it be the chili cook-off. Like we donate the sound system to Tony Coronas. I go out there myself. We set it up. We do the whole bit. So CVD is always helping everybody in the community. It's very active all the time. With another example is we founded the Canal Valley Medical Explorers, which used to be the Boy Scouts. We fund them separately on the side with other events that we do. The carnival that we do is just one of the events. We reach out to the Ventura County Courthouse to find all the kids that need to put in time for all of their community service numbers that they need to do for getting tickets and doing all the stuff. They come and work on the stage. So we're always trying to find ways in the community to help build character and help these kids become more of what they really need to become. It's not, you don't see it in the numbers. You don't see it in the event, but there's so much to Canal Valley Days that has been historically our path from the beginning. And I've been mentored by, I can't tell you how many great people I just have respect for. Alex Fiore, you know, one of the great founders of Thousand Oaks, the Jans family, my family, the Worley family.
the idea of Thousand Oaks is community to help each other succeed, which is why like we gift, I bought the chili cough, we gift it to the Rotary. Why? Because they do a great job. I can't join the Rotary because CBD Switzerland. So I can't join one thing, but if I were to join one, I join that one. We help the Sheriff's Department. The other thing that you have to consider about a nonprofit in Thousand Oaks, I hear a lot of talk about, well, you get the money and then you give it to other charities. That's not what nonprofits do. It's what's happening lately, and it seems to be a big conversation, but that's not really the mission. You make a mission statement, like our mission statement is to host the traditional Thousand Oaks celebration. And that's what CBD is. And if we can pay for that and get that done, do it each year responsibly, nobody gets hurt. That's our mission statement. We don't need to give money to everybody else on the planet. So my mission statement at CBD since I've acquired is to make sure that the event continues, it's safe, it's for the kids, right? It's not for everybody. And that the kids have a place to go to congregate when they get out of school so that they can share the community of Thousand Oaks. Since we're not allowed on the fields anymore, which I agree with. A lot of the big heavy trucks and stuff destroyed a lot of the fields. Fields are important. So CBDs continue to work with staff, mostly Tom and Jim, and Jody's great, to find ways to continue the event without hurting the fields and growing both options. And I think we did a really great job on that, and we haven't had any problems. I'd like to have some of the fields back just for the food and the stage and that kind of bit, but the fields are time sensitive. So unless I can move the event back to May, we really can't do that in June. I'm restricted by the carnival at this time. They're only available in July and June right now. Because of COVID, they had to move things around. I'd love to move it back to May to the week after the chili cook-off, leaving the chili cook-off a week of insurance so that if it rains, they can still do their event the next week. Then we have the insurance the week after that, which would give us, we really need a month to do those events. I love Conejo Valley Days. I love Thousand Oaks. I've been here my whole life. And I'm devoted to CBD. I believe I'm going to be the president for 100, till the 100th year. I'm 66 years old. I don't feel any older than I did when I was 20. So I think I'm going to make it. And I'm going to protect it. I'm going to fight for it. I think we should grandfather it in. Excuse me, Chuck, but I'm disturbed by the language of 4 major events and they could be in flux. Nah, I don't think so. I think it's CBD's 1. Chili cook-off is 2. You want to float around with 2 more? Awesome. Do that. I don't think you can mess with an event that really started the community, that built those fields, that some of the founders donated some of those fields. The Jans family, I believe, donated some of the parks. I'm right about that, right? Dover and Hendricks.
Yeah, not that particular part.
Well,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying the power, when it started out with a giving nature, and CBD, under my tutelage and my stewardship, it can be whatever we want it to be. I do have the ability to bring the greatest entertainers in the world. I could bring Paul McCartney. I've brought the Foo Fighters and I paid them $1. Their bill was $410,000. We paid them $1. They were good with that. Dave was good. He played 3 years. So CBD can be as big as we want it to be. Lately, I've tried to make it small and contain it to protect it, which is why when we had COVID and stuff, you won't see big bills. You won't see us, doing anything risky to get shut down or we did have PETA take the the rodeo away from us. If you guys are wondering where the Rotary went, PETA took it away from us. We can't even do goldfish with the fire department now. Okay, so we are restricted by many, many things. We've not been restricted by the CRPD. We've just been, it's been a great partnership. I look forward to continuing the partnership. This will be the last year of the smaller event. I would love to have an open discussion, especially with you, Chuck, about how we can make this a great event, protect the fields, get it in a time frame where it makes good sense and it helps other people. It's kind of my report. I have a lot to say about CBD, but I do love this community. I love what you guys are doing. I love the parks. I live by Banyan. Banyan Park is awesome now. I'm sorry to see you go, Tom. Thank you.
Frank, no one has ever accused you of rambling, really.
I told you, give me a microphone, it's a problem.
I know, bad mistake, bad mistake.
Yeah.
Board questions or comments for either staff or for Mr. Akery? Mr. Director Lang.
Yes, number of general comments. As Mr. Akery knows, I was Grand Marshal, in fact, the last Grand Marshal of
You were
Caneo
the
Valley
last one.
Days
Yeah.
in 2015. And I still have that trophy. I'm still very proud of it. And the event is different. You know, I've been to Chili Cook-Offs. It's gone through a transition, and I think it's really in a great place now,
Yes.
both literally and figuratively. But Caneo Valley Days, as Mr. Akery has implied, has its roots going way back into the 30s or 40s or whatever. You
38.
and Donna Fargo,
Yeah.
I was here in 65, and so I got to, interact with her and so forth. It's just an event that is years ago really said this is Thousand Oaks. And naturally everything changes, and it's not the same equestrian focused community or whatever, but it's still got that feel, I think, of the Caneo Valley Days from years past. And I want to thank you, Frank, for all the time and efforts, blood, sweat, and tears that you've put into it. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't even be talking about Caneo Valley Days tonight. So thank you for your personal dedication and all the various aspects of making this work when other people would have given up a long time ago. So thank you so much. And also thank you for working with the Park District and, for not having the heavy equipment on our turf and so forth. That was probably a tough decision.
He's
But-
bigger than you are, so.
He's bigger than I am.
But anyway, we appreciate, the give and take and working together. And I'm sure that with you and Chuck put your heads together, it'll even get better.
Absolutely.
Director Cusworth.
So when I look at your financial statement, it looks like you lost money last year.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yeah.
So are you feeling you can continue on without losing money? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I don't think anybody's gonna argue with you about Caneo Valley Days. Anybody who's lived here for any amount of time, Caneo Valley Days was a big deal. I loved Caneo Valley Days. We raised our kids with Caneo Valley Days. I was in the Women's Best Western Wear event. I was in the parade. We were always there with Caneo Valley Days. But I'm concerned, and I'm glad you're wanting to keep it together, and having a carnival is fine. I'd love to see some of those things come back. But do you feel you're going to be able to continue with this?
Oh, yeah. I've turned away $200,000 in sponsorships each year, the last 2 years, because
Why?
I'm not giving up control. The control, when a sponsor comes in and says, okay, we're going to do this, this, and this, and then we're going to abide by the CDS rule, and then we're accountable to da, 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 da. I've put CVD in danger. Okay, I can afford to lose money at CVD forever. I'm not worried about it. I donate a lot of the stuff already. I pay everybody. We owe no one anything. We've never been in debt. At the end of the year, all accounts are even, always, and they always will be. It's my charity to my community that I love. We could make money. Making money is not a problem. How you make the money and where the money goes, and these bigger entities, they have conditions like, okay, so we're going to advertise in Los Angeles. No, we're not. No, this is a Thousand Oaks event. I don't want gang members from Los Angeles coming in. I don't want to reach into the community of downtown LA. Okay, this is only for Thousand Oaks. And we've never lost really any money except the last couple of years. And I accepted that with with COVID. I knew that we were going to do that, but we still maintain control, and we still help the community in huge ways. We mentor 25, 30 kids a year, then actually build character, go out and become somebody. Nelson. I've known Nelson since he was, smaller. Great man. These guys are becoming great men because they're part of the Rotary, because they're part of CVD. These are investments you can't count with money. And I don't really care about money. It doesn't either way anymore. So yeah, we're never going to be in danger of closing because we lost money. I also own the lighting, sound, staging companies that do it. So if I pay them and we lose $10,000, it's okay. We won't lose money in the future. We have a great plan to bring in bigger bands, take some sponsorships, but they need to be within the CRPD's realm. These guys are going to push for the fields too. Like, we should have the fields and you have grandfather rights and you have this. I don't want them standing up here telling you guys who they are. They don't matter to us. We're Canal Valley Days. We don't need anybody's help. We don't ask the city for help. We don't ask you guys or anybody else in the community for any money. We just ask for your understanding, your partnership, and your support. And we've always gotten it.
Well, it's very impressive and I appreciate your devotion.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Yes, Director Nichols.
Thank you again, Frank, for your commitment and your involvement.
Pleasure, Doug.
I know you've encountered this topic before, but I was reminded again when a family friend was commenting of how much fun they had at the parade in Moore Park this last year. And I thought, why there but not here anymore?
Okay.
And I know there's a whole lot of, like you said, it's a whole different
Yeah, but
community than it was.
I'll give you the 30-second history of it, right?
Yeah.
So CBD was the original Canal Valley's Activities Corporation was all of the nonprofits coming together to divide up the tasks, right? Kiwanis did the parade and in exchange got to sell all the beer at CBD. The Sir Optimists did the opening day kickoff picnic, which was at Orchard. It was at Dover, couple different places. They charged, they made money. There was the Luciers that used to do the fashion show, Frank and Mary Elva. Everybody made money for their own clubs. Then there was the Grand Marshal race, which was all the different nonprofits raising as much money as they could. Whoever raised the most amount of money, their representative became the Grand Marshal. They were in the parade. It's nobody's fault. Everybody's trying really, really hard. Lack of membership in most of the organizations, whether it be the Rotaries, Thousand Oaks Rotaries, like exempt, they're like an anomaly. But Kiwanis, all the smaller Rotaries, the Masons, the Lions Club, they're just suffering from membership. So they can't support the event. What I've tried to do is divide the responsibility of CVD up and empowered those particular Rotaries to make their own money, carve their own path. So you're also seeing that CVD doesn't bring in $1 million like it used to and then divide it out. We now let everybody make their own money. We're not accountable. We don't ask them for a percentage. We used to get 6% of the chili cook-off, right? But that doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So the dynamics have changed. And with me being the steward and having some experience in this, I have pretty good experience in this.
I think your 30 seconds is up, Frank.
I'm sorry. You just have to look at it a little differently. I'm happy to lay it out to you at another time.
No, I know
Thanks, Chuck.
that's a passion, and I just was like, doggone it, why can't we do this? So,
Those things are going to come back.
all right,
Okay, it's a cycle. Just remember, it's a cycle.
I'm
It's
waiting.
going to be huge
All right.
again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Director Buss, you have any comments?
Actually, yeah. I was wondering what happened to the rodeo because I loved the rodeo as a little girl and I got at least 5 goldfish.
Yeah.
And some of them lasted at least 5 years.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it. And the first year that I ran the chili cook-off, I actually tried to move it to the Sunday before Conejo Valley Days to get us somewhat closer together again because of my memories and being a little girl and growing up here. And so I appreciate all you do. I understand the passion. People ask me why I run the chili cook-off. It's a thing. I can get it. Thank you so
and
much.
Congratulations. It's just doing wonderfully.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Director Lang, take 2.
Yep, okay, it'll be shorter than I normally would be, but I've been around long enough, as some of you know, when Canal Valley Days was run by the chamber.
Yeah.
And a
Steve.
lot of challenges and issues working with the chamber. I was also with the Thousand Oaks Kiwanis Club for 14 years. And I was responsible for all the floats, the miscellaneous and the bands, and making sure they get judged and organized and so forth. And I know when you were talking about the clubs are getting smaller and there's not as much manpower, people power, that it's not right now like it used to be. But knowing you, Frank, and your dedication and your love for Canal Valley Days and the community, I know it's just going to get better.
It is.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All of us have been in Thousand Oaks in the Canal Valley for years and years, taking kids to Canal Valley Days. In at least one case, she was a kid herself at Canal Valley Days. You mentioned the what PAT or whatever for the. I don't know how many goldfish my kids killed along the way. Bring them home, they jump out of a little pot and finally got smart and decided you go to the fish store and you get a goldfish there and let them kill the goldfish. Yeah, some great memories of Canal Valley Days. Dozens and dozens of charities had booths there, and a number of the charities, that was their big fundraiser for every year.
Yeah.
Canal Valley Days has changed. And, you know, a lot of things have changed in our community over the last 30, 40, 50 years. You're right. The numbers alone can't tell the story. I mean, total up in the, you know, $10,000 or $11,000 going to some of the local charities. That's great, but you know, it's for some of these charities, it's a drop in the bucket, but every little bit helps. But you were talking about all the other things that don't appear on our profit and loss statement. I have real mixed feelings about Canal Valley Days. I have great memories, but the way it is right now, I see it basically as the park district renting out a parking lot for a 10-day carnival.
But don't the kids need
I'm not a
that?
carnival person myself. You know, I'm sure the people who go there have a fun time, but it's basically a 10-day carnival. Early in my remarks, we were talking about the four major events. I said, because we're a public facility, we need to be providing public benefits. And you went through in very brief terms, the benefits that don't show up in dollars and cents that you provide, which is great. But still, I see it as a 10-day carnival. It's a time of year where the soccer fields are closed, so that can't be used anyway. The parking lot is sitting there. So the fact that, and I don't recall the exact numbers, but the park district would be getting $15,000 or $20,000 or something for renting the facility to you for 10 days. That's funds that we otherwise wouldn't have. But it's still carnival, in my view. I wish I could feel differently, Frank, because your passion, as everybody has said, is absolutely extraordinary. But I'm as I've said much of this last year, and I have to say it again this year, I can't personally support approving the agreement for those reasons, because yes, it provides some public benefit, but
Wow.
it's again, my personal view, it's a carnival. So I am going to ask, unless there are any further comments from board members, I'm going to ask that we vote on the two items separately, the two recommendations separately, just because there will be different votes on the two. So I first need a motion for recommendation number one. Director Lang.
Yes, I so move that we recommend that or determine that Canal Valley Days for 2023 and is categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act.
Thank you. Do I have a second for that motion?
Second.
Director Cusworth, any questions or comments on that motion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Second recommendation, can I get a motion on recommendation number 2? Director Cussworth.
I'll give a recommendation that we authorize the general manager to execute the CBD agreement for 2023.
Thank you very much. Can I have a second, please? Direct.
Go ahead.
You're closer.
Director Buss, second. Any further comments or questions? All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Vote carries 4-1. Thank you, Frank.
Thanks, Chuck. I'm gonna get you to fall in love with CBD in the end, man. I'm telling you, I'm gonna get this to a place you're gonna go, I love this thing.
I know.
Chuck, thank you for your professionalism. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, moving along to item 10E. Contract for compensation study and review of selected job classifications. I'm guessing. Ms. Smith, are you going to start, or is general manager going to start on this?
I can jump in unless, okay. So I totally understand that we're into our 4th hour, so I will go really fast, but please stop me if you need me to. I also want to acknowledge that we have Alan Crescelius. I'm so sorry if I said that wrong. He is the president of Reward Strategy Group on Zoom, so he'll be available for any questions you might have. I'm hearing an echo and I'll try to back up. So we're talking about class and comp, and I wanted to kind of break it down into why we're doing this and then how we went about picking this consultant. So the why is our last one was done in 2006, so 16 years. About a year and a half ago, when we were negotiating with SEIU, who represents our full-time staff, we committed to doing a class and comp within the next 5 years, meaning by May of 2026. We didn't want to wait till the last minute, so we actually budgeted for it within this fiscal year. And just as a reminder, we didn't commit to do anything with this. Oh, Alan, are you there? Can you hear?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay. Thank you. I'm glad you're on.
I don't see my picture though.
No, we just see your name.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. So as a reminder, we didn't commit to use this study in any way or implement any of the findings. We just committed to do it. And so we'll see what the results are and then have that discussion with the union and with you about how that process will roll out. We sent out request proposals to 12 different consultants. That RFP was very similar to the one in 2006. And as you can see in the proposal from RSG, we requested a breakdown based on the different types of employees. So we had the union represented full-time employees, which represented 52 different classifications. It's 104 budgeted positions, and that's 99 employees that we have right now. We also included the regular part-time, that's 20 hours to 35-hour week people. That's 6 classifications covering 29 employees. And we asked for information regarding our seasonal and our part-time that are under 20 hours. That's 27 classifications with a fluctuating number of employees based on seasonality and things like that. We wanted that breakdown of the expenses to provide some flexibility with options moving forward. So that was the primary difference between this proposal and the one that we did in 2006. Again, I sent it out to 12 consultants. I did get feedback from a good amount of them that they are very, very busy. And I know Alan let us know that too, that there is some backlog in work because of COVID and things like that. So very, very busy. And I was actually happy to get 2 proposals based on the comments I heard. So let me move this up so I don't forget to say anything. So we got the 2 proposals and we picked, we're recommending Reward Strategy Group. And what you can see in the packet is that they were the most responsive proposal we got. They broke down the expenses in that way that I identified, where it was the full-time staff, the regular part-time, and the seasonal part-time. They also, if you look at page 10 of their proposal, they gave this outstanding timeline, which I'm actually handing out to our staff to help prepare them step by step, because I think a lot of the hand-holding with staff through this process is going to be a huge part of the whole thing. So it was just the most responsive RFP we got. Their experience, which if you look on page 3 of their proposal, shows who they've done similar projects for. They had more experience in the region. They did City of Thousand Oaks and both the City and County of Los Angeles, and more experience with park related positions. They've done East Bay Regional Park District
And for all but a few of the cities that are on their list, they handled all the park positions within those cities as well. What you're not seeing in their proposal was that I spoke to their many references, which were all glowing to the point where they volunteered to send me work product because they were so happy with their performance. They were also extremely responsive, not only in their proposal, but to my probably annoying questions after the fact. And our other proposal was not nearly as responsive. And then the other thing that's not in there, of the 12 comp agencies that we used in 2006, they have also done the class and comps for 4 of those 12 and were recently hired for a 5th. So they're familiar with the agencies and the comps that we used previously. I'm trying to go really fast and I'm hearing that, so sorry. Based on the budgeting, we decided not to move forward with the seasonal and the under 20-hour classification study, just budget wise. And because those positions are so dependent on the minimum wage, it didn't seem like a very good return on investment for that. So we're recommending moving forward with just the full-time and the regular part-time position analysis, and then about $5,000 in contingency for any additional work we might need from them. So a total would be not to exceed $80,000. And trying to go really fast because I know we're late, but I'm available for questions. And Alan, I don't know if you wanted to share anything or just be available for questions, but.
I'm pleased to have waited till this hour to be able to say hello to you. The firm is in fact looking forward to being able to work with staff and the board to do this study. And it's something that we've done an awful lot of and we're very good at doing.
Okay, and I have to apologize, Alan, for making you wait so long. Our meeting tonight is unusually busy, so thank you for your patience.
Not a problem.
Board questions or comments for either Melissa or Alan? Yes, Director Nichols.
Yes, I do have a few questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm curious as to why the not to exceed amount is $80,000 when the proposal is for $106,000.
So the proposal included the class and comp to include the seasonal and part-time staff that is under the 20-hour a week. And we're deciding not to go forward with that portion. It's not required per our agreement. We were kind of looking to see if that amount would be worth the return on investment because we had recruiting challenges over the summer. But as we already are kind of doing our internal class and comp on those positions every year as the minimum wage is adjusted, we didn't think it was worth the bang for the buck this time. So we're only going forward with those first 2 categories and then a little bit of contingency to get to the $80,000.
Okay. This is intended to review all of the full-time positions.
Correct.
Okay. Having gone through this process before, in the previous organization, an option that was selected was to identify maybe 20% of the positions as threshold markers and then adjust from there. Where, for example, if you've got a level 1, level 2, something in a senior, and then you just kind of prorate, so to speak, you target one of them and then kind of prorate from there. Has that been considered as part of this discussion as far as how you could do something like that?
I have not discussed it. I know that one of the references that I spoke to did do something similar. I think she called it benchmarking, but I'll actually let Alan answer that. He's probably more familiar.
Benchmarking refers to just exactly how many jobs or classifications for the district we would attempt to go into the survey marketplace and identify comparable jobs and create a database for. We tend to benchmark more than the average firm because we're the ones who are collecting the information about what the organizations have that may be comparable and doing the comparability analyses. And so if you have your series of your fleet technician 1 and 2, for example, or your grounds workers 1, 2, 3, we will in fact be out looking to collect data on those jobs and what we were determining to be benchmark classes, and we'll do it for all levels. We won't find necessarily that the same structure of jobs in the survey cohort organizations. We'll do an analysis of which jobs they do have that are comparable and which jobs aren't. And we'll put the jobs into the data, we'll put the data into the database based upon our comparability analysis. And it's something I've been doing for 45 years. And with our knowledge of the kinds of classifications that you have and the organizations that we're going to survey, our clients have been very pleased with our ability to create viable databases by doing that. There are going to be jobs that aren't, or classes that aren't, in fact, don't have market data collected on, simply because they're unique or weren't benchmarked. And those jobs will be allocated in our recommendations based upon internal job content comparisons, based upon the way you value the job in terms of how you structured it, and in the internal relationships. I'm not sure if that's exactly what Director Nichols was asking, but I'd be glad to go further if it isn't.
No, I think that covers it. Thank you, Alan. Again, I just know especially with larger organizations where you have, hundreds or thousands of positions, it's very difficult to go through. And it is, you correctly identified, no two organizations are exactly alike, and you're not going to get an equal match from one to the next. But it just seemed like if you could target a handful, like maybe one within each series, maybe that would be sufficient. But, I just throw that out there as a consideration, especially if, money is an issue where, perhaps something like that could be a cost savings. Now, I also notice, I appreciate the reference that there's experience in the, park and rec or rec and park field, depending on which type of agency you're looking at. But I also noticed that there's only two rec and park districts that were listed as references. And I know, the agencies differ, the structures differ, and the expectations differ from those. So what might be the same job title in a city agency is going to not necessarily be the exact same expectations in a special district. So when you encounter that, how do you find some understanding across the table where it might have the same name of a position, but the job description is different? How do you, kind of balance that out?
Based upon experience, we don't do it based upon the job title. We look at what your jobs require in terms of the knowledges and skills and abilities, and we're doing the classification work first. So we're really studying your jobs from a position classification and getting to understand them the way that CRPD is in fact got the job structure. And so when we go to the cohort organizations, like the organizations that we're surveying in your cohort, we'll be looking for jobs that have the same job content, the same knowledges and skills, the same challenges that they face, the kinds of accountability that they've got and what they're responsible for achieving, not just the job title. And that comparability analysis that we do to create the database is what we're pretty much known for in terms of building an accurate database, so that we won't be asking what is your lead ranger and what is your park ranger? Oh, well, we have a lot of jobs out there that have park ranger in the title. Well, I think if you looked at the difference between your park rangers and those that are in the Rancho Simi Rec and Park District, you'd find that they're probably not comparable jobs, at least from what I read online when I took a look at their organization versus yours. So those are the kinds of things we're going to understand. And when we're building the database, we will not be putting jobs in that aren't comparable to what your jobs are. So that when we come up with the data, it will reflect the jobs that are reasonably comparable to yours and deserve to be in the data that you're looking at to determine how competitive you are for jobs like yours and what the marketplace is providing in terms of salary opportunities, salary ranges for those jobs.
Okay, thank you. I know it's a very challenging role, and I appreciate your expertise. And like I said, there's no two agencies that are alike, and it's a challenge, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Any other questions from board members? I guess I have a couple of questions. I'm not sure if this is for you, Melissa, or for Alan, but two different stages. First, the job classifications. Do you anticipate basically redoing our entire job classification system from scratch, or is this more sort of tweaking what we already have?
We're going to do the classification analysis to determine if your position classification plan fits the way you've got the work organized today, what you're asking employees to be able to provide in terms of duties and fulfilling their responsibilities, and in the extent that the classification plan doesn't do that for you, isn't the foundation for your human resources management system, then we'll make recommendations that we think could improve it. It will always be your classification plan, and we'll be explaining what we see as good and what we see as probably could be improved, and provide the rationale for that. And ultimately, you can decide if the organization can decide if what we're recommending makes sense for you going forward. We have an awful lot of experience doing it, and you'll be getting very thoughtful recommendations where there would be changes that we think would be helpful. Some could be minor changes, simply making some title advancements in terms of what may be more common in the marketplace and in the industry convention, if you will. And others will be that you've got folks who are not working in the right classification right now and are in something that doesn't apply to what you're asking them to do. And we would be identifying those as needing to be reclassified with a rationale on why.
All right. In reading your very detailed proposal, it appears to me that for the job classification portion of the project, you're going to be working with some or all of the employees to fine tune our existing system. But the compensation portion of the study, I'm assuming would just be involving Melissa and her staff. Once the project is done, who sees that final result of the compensation study?
Whomever you wish to see it.
Melissa, who sees it?
So EU, what was handled in 2006 was all the information was provided as in part of closed session to the board, so you were not surprised. And then if it was to be used in part of negotiations, that would likely be part of that process.
Okay. But it's not being published to the general public or to the entire group of employees or anything like that.
That's not the plan at the moment, but you could choose. I don't have a destination for it right now.
Okay, all right. Are there any other questions or comments from board members? Director Lang,
Yeah, I'm assuming Shelley and you are working closely on this one.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
All right, if there are no further comments, I would like to entertain a motion. Director Nichols.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to follow staff's recommendation to award the contract for the compensation study as proposed.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
He was first, sorry. Director Lang, second. Any further comments or questions? If not, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Alan, thank you very much for your time, and
Thank you. Look forward to seeing you in the future.
thank you.
For sure.
Okay, moving along to item 11. And just for your information, Marissa, we don't go through each item, but if you have any questions on recreation highlights, park dedication fees, budget performance report, investment reports, program enrollment, now's the time to ask those questions.
Go ahead. You have anything, Marissa?
No,
Okay.
Director.
Sorry. No, I already had spoken to Jim and had my questions answered on what everything was earlier today.
Good. All
Thank
right.
you.
Director Lang.
Thank you, Chair Huffer. I was just going to make some positive comments on the recreation report. Looking on page 161, that photo at the bottom of the page, I think it's just terrific. To me, it communicates a lot, looking at each of the little kiddos and our staff member. And what was the other item I wanted to comment on page 165, our that park dedication fees, seeing James Foster now responsible for that, taking over for Bill Palermo. So I know we're going to be passing another baton pretty soon, but I just happened to notice that, and I was just, glad to see James have the responsibility already going. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? I'm probably dating myself, but just one quick question on the recreation report. What the heck is Snapology?
It's actually a Lego type thing. So it's like a Lego building class.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Snap Legos.
Why didn't you say Legos? Legos, I know.
It can be other snap type together things also.
Oh, okay. More generic. All right.
I haven't seen Tinker Toys used in a while.
How about Lincoln Logs? I know.
I
What's
haven't
Lincoln
seen
Logs?
the Lincoln Logs either, but.
All right, moving right along. Department reports. Mr. Hare, for the final time. Oh, you're turning it over to?
Yeah, no report tonight.
No report? Really?
Why not? It's 9:25.
Wow. Okay, all right.
Talking about the time, where's our clock?
Yeah, I kind of use that.
Someone stole our
Oh, we
clock.
don't know where that one went.
Oh,
That clock was really necessary. And now we don't have a clock here. We don't have a clock there. It's not that
We'll figure it out.
I'll get you a new clock.
all right, moving right along. Recreation Division, Ms. Callis.
Thank you, Chair Huffer, member of the boards. I have a very long report tonight. No, I don't. Just so you know, I noticed in the rec highlights, the Los Feliz Safe Passage event did not have a time on it. It's from 10 to 12:30. So everything else, all the other events is on there, but I believe I did not see the actual time for the Los Feliz event. And then also just wanted to let you know that Reign of Terror completed their year. And they made their donation to CRPD, and we received $42,000 from Reign of Terror from Bruce and Mary from the nonprofit, which half goes to the teen center and half goes to the Caneo Theater for Everyone. So those two groups will be using that. They've already turned in their agreement for next year. They're with us and the Jans Mall. So that I'll be bringing that to the board soon. And when Bruce is here for that, we'll get a nice picture with a little check and stuff. So that we can thank him appropriately in the newspaper and whatnot, or on social media. Also in your packet, you have the enrollment survey from fall. And as you can see, we're still doing really good with responses and everything. So if you had any questions in regards to that, either this time or you want to email me anything, feel free to do so. But I'm still very proud of what our staff is doing out in the field and how we are impacting the community and the satisfaction that our community has, not only with the programs, but also the facilities that they are using. So with that, I'm available for questions.
Do we have any questions for Ms. Callis? No. Moving right along, Management Services, Ms. Smith.
I have no report, but I'm available for questions.
Any questions for Ms. Smith? No. Moving right along, General Manager's report.
I have a few things to mention. Org chart wise, we have that in your packet. A board member asked for it and I thought I'd share the most updated org chart with you. We got to get a new page for Marissa, so we got to get her photo and add that to the org chart, but you can kind of see the most current one. Really important, you have your board appointments and assignments, and we didn't take Susan's name off, but obviously she's not here. This is something I want you to look over for the next couple weeks and let Chuck and myself know. Chuck is the chair and myself know if like you have interest in different committees, and then there'll be some sort of alchemy and effort to try to put people in their desired committee slots. You know, ad hoc committees are supposed to be you know, temporary, not long-standing committees. So to the extent we might be able to you know, remove a couple ad hoc committees, that might be something to do. Or just acknowledge it's a standing committee and move it to that, but there's appeal to it being an ad hoc. But anyway, take a look at it. You can call, ask questions, that kind of thing. But this is something I want to tackle in January if we can, so that we can start doing business with committees and people in the right spots. Some stuff has to happen for like Casca, for example. We need to get our person in place, make sure that they're there when Casca starts meeting again. So anyway, we'll take a look at it in January, and I want you guys to have a sense of it as we get into that. So very much wish everyone a happy holiday, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all that good stuff coming on. But as I close this last meeting of the year from my remarks, I need to say some nice things about Tom.
Oh, no.
So I want you guys to pay close attention while I say a few nice things about Tom.
Did you see this, Chuck?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Tom had his wonderful party here where he mercilessly roasted pretty much everyone in the room. And I just think that on behalf of the, you know, the staff and the board, we're so grateful for Tom's many great works over the past 17 years. In all seriousness, a Navy guy, this is for the record. So Aline, you know, a veteran Navy guy, you know, capable, competent at the city of TO. We stole him over here to the Park District. He did dozens of, if not, he did hundreds of capital projects. 800 is our estimation at 64 million in total. Created the matching grant program with our nonprofits that has done over $1 million worth of matching capital grant projects. 1.5 million. Sorry, he's awake.
We thought you were
long time president of Play Caneo board, raising over $1 million in 10 years. And like I said, the night of his party, he is a leader among his staff. He gets in the trenches with the people in the field, which is what I so respect him and appreciate for him, and has done a fantastic job. And we are gonna so miss you, Tom. You've been a great asset to the district. So thank you for your wonderful service.
Any questions or comments for our general manager? No? Yes, Director Lang.
Are you soliciting additional comments on general manager's reports or comments on Mr. Hare? Or did we say enough at his party?
Yeah, but see, you get to say something and he's incommunicado, so he cannot respond this time, so.
He's got public comments for the next 40 years.
He's not public yet.
I'll comment.
Go right ahead.
So Tom, you were the first person that I ever met because you love history and you're at McCray Ranch. So before I ever came to CRPD, you were the only person that I knew here. And I think I'll still see you around. I'm going to miss your reports. I love how beautifully your reports look. And I'm hoping that Jody makes all those reports, so I will still come and be overawed by the beauty of the reports. So I have appreciated that. I'm going to really miss talking about your vacations because you do a lot of the kinds of things that I like to do. And I'm going to miss Lori because I've kind of felt like I've connected with Lori a little bit. I'm going to miss your family. So you know, I hope you're going to be coming to the, you know, events that we're still going to be at, and we'll still see you. And you've done so much for this park district. You're kind of the face of it. You spend most of the money, and going to really miss you. So thanks for all the work you've done.
Director Nichols.
Yeah, just a couple points of clarification. When I attended the Tom Hare roast of the board meeting.
Oh dear.
Just so you know, I am familiar with spreadsheets. I keep my family budget on my spreadsheet. And does Lotus 1, 2, 3 mean anything to you? That's where I got my start on spreadsheets, and I was the go-to person back at my previous job. So I was able to read your spreadsheets is my bottom line. But thank you. I appreciated the detail, and I think setting a standard that we will be able to follow for at least 10x years. So
I
Thank
don't
you.
think that our problem was ever our ability to read spreadsheets. I think it was our ability to read his spreadsheets because they were so small. I think that he did that purposely so that we wouldn't read his spreadsheets. Anyway.
Agreed.
Director Lang.
Yes, I think as a fellow Navy guy, I think that's where it all starts. That's why he's such a success and accomplished so much here at CRPD. So Tom, you know how I feel about you, and we really gonna miss you.
I just wanted to add my thanks, Tom. It's, you know, the 10 or so years that I've been here, the projects that you've been able to start and complete, all of the reports that you've prepared for us, including indecipherable spreadsheets. You know, the planning that you've done, putting together the capital expenditure, you know, 10-year projections, the funding for vehicles and other equipment, you know, things that many or most organizations probably don't have, certainly in that level of detail. So I wish you the best of luck. I'm going to continue to beat you at the raffles at the McRae Ranch movies in the summertime, but I wish you best of luck with that. So thank you.
Yay.
Okay, 12E, director's reports. I'll go on basis of seniority. Director Lang.
Oh my goodness. Senior in many ways, but I'll make it short. Typical Santa Monica Mountain Conservancy, Mountains Recreation Conservation Authority meeting, and I've got another one coming up next week. And it, you know, there's a lot of meetings associated with many of my organizations, but you know, bottom line, like all of us, we accomplish a lot. We do a lot for our community and so forth. So I'm proud to have the opportunity to serve on these different organizations. And yes, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year to everybody.
Thank you very much. I'm not quite sure which of the two of you is more senior, but I'm going to go with
I might be more
Director-
senior because I registered first, but.
okay. Well, in that case, you're up. Director Cusworth.
Goes for. So I did something. I met with Jim and Marissa on Monday, and that was really great to get to know her a little bit. And she has a lot of knowledge of the city. She's been around a long time, and I'm excited to have her on board. So other than that, I was there at the city with all of you when we, you know, did the installation, and I don't think I've been to anything else that you haven't all been at, and we'll probably see a few of you on Saturday. Spent a lot of time with you guys.
Lucky you.
Yeah.
Director Nichols.
Thank you. On the December 6th, along with George and Judy, attended the Ventura County Association of Water Agencies holiday party, which we were invited to because of the Special Districts Association. That was nice. The Tom Hare roast of the board. See, on December 8th, I was at the California Association of Recreation Park Districts Legislative Committee meeting, which there was a nice contingent, including our general manager and Ms. Smith. And let's see, then the holiday party, the State of City address, the reorganization meeting, and then I also went down to the Ventura County Community College District, swearing in the new officials down there too. And I won't be here Saturday. We're leaving out of town early morning, so won't be there Saturday.
Good. Thank you. And our 3.5 hour newest board member, Director Buss.
So I went to many of those events with you all, and then I also went and met with Brian McQueenie over at Rancho Potrero Equestrian Center, and he showed me around and my daughters. And other than that, I think you guys know all the other stuff. We were there together.
Thank you. And I guess, I don't know if it was mentioned, but the employee breakfast we had earlier in the week was really nice. I hadn't seen the Magic Act in years, so that was fun. But I appreciate staff putting that on for all the employees. At least the folks I talked to seem to really enjoy it. So, and I too am looking forward to probably my favorite event every year, the Starlight Ball Saturday night. So, and Director Lang.
Yes,
two.
the question for staff. If I recall correctly, was this the first one for breakfast? The last others were lunchtime, weren't they?
No, we did breakfast, I think it was 2018 or 17. Like 18 or 17, so not too long ago.
I guess I wasn't invited.
That is true.
Thank you. I thought, the breakfast idea, and I don't know how it affects, that's why I was kind of directing it to staff, how it affects your staff, if it's easier to start the day that way or break for lunch and then.
Everyone, they're all different, so that's why we've done breakfast and then potlucks and catered lunch, and we try to change it all the time because we know we can't make 100% of the people attend or happy.
Nice event, and thank you, staff.
Okay, there's nothing else. Agenda item 13. Do we have any requests for status reports and items for subsequent agendas? I don't see any waving hands, so we'll move along to item 14. Do we have any public waiting by to make some comments? No. All right. Please tell us, Mr. Friedel, that we do not have a need for an executive closed session.
Well, we just had lawsuits being thrown about, but no, we don't.
Okay, well, in that case, just so Marissa, this is a somewhat unusually long meeting for us, so they don't all go until, oh my gosh, it's almost 10. So with that, I am going to adjourn the meeting until January.
Thank you,
Thank you.
America, for hanging out.